Taking.
You know what time it is, rookie?
It is howdy doody time.
It is time, that weekly time, the beefy time. You're here in the meat pit. That's right, all American beef. Sorry, I'm a few minutes late. What is up,
fault.
Papa Cotton? I saw you in here earlier. Hashtag not a cult. We got Keely Chow. Hey, everybody. Got some cattle, beef. It's in the chat. It's what's for dinner. Actually, I had Cinnamon Toast Crunch before this.
I had chicken, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But any hoozy. I sent the link to Hoff. You should see it momentarily. But yeah, we are on Twitter. We have about an hour with the rookie, the critic, before he has to go make sandwiches like a pussy.
Yep, I'm just a corporate slave. That's all.
But yeah, I've been wanting to do this for a while. Rookie, do you have a drink available? Turn on your camera. Let's get a drink.
I just brushed my teeth.
I just brushed my teeth, so they're nice and pretty for the camera. That's what you're
no, I
me.
don't have my camera on. I'm on my chair. My new chair that I built.
New chair. This guy.
Built, and I don't have my camera up.
Of course, he has to interject the chair. Anyway, a new segment. This audio in part from Chris Fisk Media. This is the new thing I want to do. Here we go. Christening in 3, 2, 1.
The Horn of Ceremony.
That is right. I am utilizing the Horn of Ceremony to kick off each week. This was from the Rookie, the Critic for Christmas. He gave me a whole bundle of stuff. Viking horn. I'm like, Vikings are cool, but I don't know why. And I'm like, oh, I'm Angus. Idiot. Idiot me. So commencing the Horn of Ceremony with a swig of wine.
Bum, da-da-dum, bum, 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 da-da-dum, bum, 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 bum.
This will be a weekly tradition. And here we go.
This concludes the Horn of Ceremony.
It is concluded.
Yeah, if I'm not working before, right after a stream, I can see if I can get myself a drinky poo for Thursdays.
Yeah, this was awkward to say the least, because I'm like, what the fuck is it? I'm like, oh, I guess I'm supposed to drink from it. It's got this little this is how you set it in there. So
yeah,
fun stuff. And thank you.
I thought it looked cool. So
thank you, the Chris, the Fisk, the media. Skull. Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I'm a Philly fan, so
that's what Vikings say to drink. Skull, skull. It's a cheering. Yes.
But yeah, we're gonna have some fun. We're gonna have Hoffcast. I was over at his house and hung out, went on stream Monday. Yeah, Monday. And that was fun, hanging out in the back room afterward with some of his followers. Good times. But yeah, we'll be talking about Target. People are triggered about Target. Target, the store. I have my own take on this, kind of. We'll get into it once old Hoffy boy's in here. But Rookie, what's been going on?
Going good, man. I'm doing some good old-fashioned yard work, and I got myself a chair. It's a big deal because I got a chair before, and it was shit, and then that became my cat's chair. And now I got this one, and it worked like I thought it was supposed to, like the other one was supposed to. And I was like, oh, sweet, there we go. That's how you have a fucking chair. And now I got it. The other one was 5 years old and tearing apart, and it was shitty now. Now I got myself a nice old comfy chair, boy. There we go.
Yeah.
And
I know the excitement of new furniture. I go to the furniture thrift shop and find quality stuff there.
That's where I went first, believe it or not. When my dad visited, he's like, "Oh, let's go look over here at like some, little cheap furniture places or something." Which they had decent looking stuff, but nothing that I was looking for. But yeah, the other thing is, Angus, I just started filming for the Fat Speedster
or OnlyFans.
Well, if that's what they like, the fat speedster. That's just me drinking Pepsi and eating chips, and it's just like, hey, give me some money, thanks, so I can buy more Pepsi and chips. Yeah, Doritos. I know how to please. The more cheesy the fingers, the better. My cat will actually lick the fingers if she smells it. She hears the Dorito bag. She's like, "Holy fuck!" and then comes in to give him a lick-a-rooney.
Yeah.
But you didn't hear me. I'm filming the Fat Speedster short film that I'm working on that will hopefully be released probably by the end of summer-ish, if not September area and whatnot.
Hey, what's up, Ancient One?
The Ancient
Thanks for being
One.
here in the chat. Being a good
I wonder, did you just come up? I forget. Did you just come up with that name at random, or did you name that like after the character, the Ancient One?
Oh, I never even thought about.
Because he came to me with like all these ideas for versus stuff from like different franchises, and I don't remember what the avatar is on his thing and where the name might have come from, so I forget.
Yeah. There's. Oh, I know I was going to look up.
Got to put on my granny glasses to see what the heck is going on in the chat there, because I'm blind. Hello, Black Angus and the Rookie Critic.
Wow. Okay. So, interesting stuff here. I saw it. Oh, come on. Get out of here, ad. There we go. Let me share this with y'all. The chat. Some of y'all might be interested, especially since Rookie is doing the Fat Speedster, a Fat Flash, if you will. Idea.
Gotta go as fast as I can do until I get out of breath.
I saw on Twitter, thanks to Second Street Marvel, conversing, I saw this in my feed. Ezra Miller's The Flash and Pixar's Elemental encounter box office headwinds. Early tracking shows The Flash opening to a soft $70 million at the domestic box office, while Elemental is pacing for just $40 million.
Oh, these are predictions.
These are predictions going about 3 weeks away.
Okay.
Both DC's highly anticipated superhero flick, The Flash, and Pixar's Elemental, if their work cut out for them in North America. Early tracking. Ezra in the titular role. So projected to open at $70 million, according to sources who have access to tracking data. Box office insiders say that it's a soft number for a movie that's been heavily promoted by Warner Brothers, Discovery, Max, HBO, at the best superhero film of all time. Others note that a movie's hold once it opens is more important than the opening weekend gross. In the late April, Flash was the toast of CinemaCon. It's the best super movie I've ever seen, said Zaslav.
I feel like that type of wording means nothing nowadays. Like,
right?
The best thing I ever saw.
Yeah. It's like the Pfizer CEO said, "Oh yeah, you're probably going to need more boosters," and it's like, what's his interest in that? He's totally objective.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. It says "Go woke, go broke" is a saying for a reason. I understand the sentiment, and generally, yeah, it's usually this stuff tanks, but we will be having a little three-way roundtable about that, and of course, y'all in the chat as well about this, because you get these like opening volleys of "well, we're winning," and then it's like after like a week, no one really cares.
Right.
And there is Hoffy Boy.
The Hoffinator.
What up? What's up? How you guys doing?
Oh, you missed it. You missed it.
Hey, what did I miss?
Oh, wait. Crap. I went in full screen while you were
you sent the link 2 minutes before the show.
Yeah.
Just kidding. But thanks for having me on. Like,
I do that.
Totally in the dark there for a while. It's like, hey, what's going on, bud?
There we go. Oh, fuck me. Oh, there we go. Sorry about that, Huff.
You're good, man. You're good.
No, I got this cheap from Hobby Lobby for like $10 a while ago to more easily play Rome Total War, but it like the button is screwed up, so it like double clicks half the time. Really annoying for gameplay. But
my keyboard is like that.
Anyway, we're first we got Ricky for about 40 minutes or so before he has to go. So I am. Here it is.
Good to see you, Rookie. Good to see you, man.
Good to see you too, Brisky.
We're talking about these projections for The Flash. And apparently it's going to be opening projections for 3 weeks from now, 70 million. Have you seen the trailer for The Flash, Hoff?
Yeah, I mean, dude, I didn't think it looked that bad, to be honest with you. I'm not even a big DC guy. Of course, Michael Keaton, you know, that's the main reason I'd want to see it. I think Ezra Miller is a crazy lad, or I guess whatever they, them. So that's the only real reason I don't want to support it, because that
Call him
guy
a Thad.
Yeah, or that. Yeah.
I just think of Blue Mountain State when you say that, though. So I don't know.
Oh. Yeah, no, I have not had any hope for this movie going into it, and then I saw the second trailer, which, am I gonna lie, they really crafted something nice there. That second trailer, that it has all the right stuff going for it. And I don't care about Keaton Batman generally. Like, I think Keaton's a great actor, but I think his Batman's really overrated. Even I think Tim Burton's called it like pop culture Batman, not like, it's not the real Batman. You know, it's definitely. It's like the Beatles. It took us in the right direction from just being cartoony, but you know, so it's like a grandfather thing. It's a Godfather thing, where it's like, yeah, it's great. It's helped set a trend of taking stuff more serious and creating this. But I think Dark Knight is the best presentation of Batman thus far, and then the Batman's probably the second best. But regardless, I appreciate it, and I'm looking forward to it. I want to see what he does in a more modern setting with this. And I just, you know, I don't like Ezra being the Flash. I think, you know, a they, them Jew in a white man character role, hero for our youth. I think there's something there with that, you know. He's gotten away with stuff because of those identities as shields.
A lot.
But, you know, I will judge the art objectively, give you my honest take, regardless of my misgivings.
Yeah, I couldn't believe this movie was still happening after all this stuff he was accused of, like taking like little girls,
theft and
like,
sex cult and choking out a woman on screen.
Yeah. And then
he was just checking her pulse, Angus. Okay.
Yeah, just make sure he's all right.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I got this horn. Rookie. Normally I wouldn't like. That's not something I would seek out, but he sent me a couple of, like, Viking horn-based, like a mug, and then this actual drinking horn. And I was like, why am I going to incorporate this? And I got the perfect idea. Let me show you what I just showed. Christening this. This is a little ceremonial horn. Here we go.
The horn of ceremony.
And then after consumption, start off the stream.
This concludes the horn of ceremony.
Very nice. Very nice.
I'd like to thank Chris Fisk again for the vocals for those clips. He nailed it. He nailed it. It's great. But yeah, the Flash. I'm interested in what they're doing with Zod and this Supergirl for this, like, different timeline. I don't know. Just looks fun.
Are they doing different timelines in this movie? Is that the kind of thing that they're doing?
There's at least two
sort
timelines.
Of. I heard that he flashes by, or like and like it looks into like a bunch of different ones briefly. Like you pass by universes, sort of, and then you land in like one or two of them or something.
That can be the only excuse for having another blue beam come out of the sky in a superhero movie. Because I saw that in the trailer. I'm like, seriously, another blue beam coming out of the sky? Seriously?
I guess, yeah. That's one thing with me.
Every time, like,
yeah, I don't know if I saw the second trailer. I might have, but I know the first one. I'm just like, God, nothing. Like, do they try with trailers anymore? Because they all feel like the same beats with a lot of their things, and I'm just like, yeah, I don't. It's not enough to like get me to go see it. I don't care. Like, I'm at a, you know, I'll try to see movies that I want to see. I'll probably try to see this, but like, I don't have any.
Dude, you saw John Wick 4 opening week. You're gonna go
and I was disappointed as fuck. I was disappointed as fuck when
I got him into John Wick, and I'm like, after number 3, I'm like, I'm not seeing more of that shit. And then he's like, dude, I'm going day 1. I'm like, what? Took you 6 years behind catching up on Game of Thrones.
I was trying to be on top of things for once, and then I regretted that, and I haven't seen a movie for a little while now. So.
Yeah, I've been, you know, it's funny, like, I'm definitely not an advocate for checking out of culture. but there's like nothing for me to go see in the theater. I'm trying to remember what I saw last. I saw Ant-Man. I know I saw something else recently. Cocaine Bear. There's something more recent I've seen.
Did you
I'll
see
look at
Guardians?
Guardians. Yeah, I saw Guardians
go.
and not horrible. I mean, I think the Rocket story, that's like a main thread line, pretty good. I just, when you're trying to explain the plot, it's so dense. And, you know, it's one thing to have a mature, deep storyline for like more mature audience or whatever. There's a difference between that versus like just actually clunky. And that's what the Guardians 3 is. It's so clunky, and some of
I
the
have my
payoffs,
qualms.
it feels lackluster outside of the Rocket story. Marvel's just a mess. They said on the story too long, letting James Gunn stay around for this film, but letting him go to DC as well. You know, so he's having to stall and whatnot. It's not good. They should have like, all right, do this, then go, and we'll find someone else. You know, on top of all their problems with Marvel, I mean, it was a really, compared to everything else the last 3 or 4 years, pretty good. But
It's the only one. The only movie I've seen since then. Okay, there was Endgame, and I didn't see anything after that. None of the shows. I watched Spider-Man Homeowners or whatever it's called, and then I watched and then I watched Guardians 3. So I'm kind of out of the loop on a lot of this stuff. But I hear about it. Don't worry. I follow channels that talk about this stuff all the time. I watch the pitch meetings. You know, Ryan George pitch meetings. So I kind of get the plot for a lot of these, but yeah, I rarely like go into these movies too often. Guardians, I have my qualms with, man. I thought it had some pretty funny jokes in it, and that was the best for me.
You probably saw the least worst Marvel things at all to pick from, so that was pretty good.
I was actually surprised
Guardians,
at what, like, Rookie showed me Doomcock crying about the animal abuse. Like, I don't, other people took their kids to see this, and yeah, it's like, you know, they've like maimed these animals in the film, like the characters. They're all CGI to begin with, but they've maimed them. You should have known that going in with Rocket, that you're going to get a backstory with Rocket, and clearly he's been like meddled with. He's a freak. He feels like a freak. He has no identity. He doesn't know where he's from or anything. Doesn't know what he is, and so you're seeing like a fuller picture of that with the High Evolutionary. I don't know what you'd expect. I'm surprised they actually went as gruesome as they did.
They weren't real freaking raccoons.
Dude, like for me, dude, like the whole animal thing, I'm a big animal guy, you know, and dude, it pulled on my heartstrings quite a bit, and I don't like to, dude, I'm a guy who puts up his wall when it comes to his emotions, and when a movie like that makes me feel something, I'm always like, oh, jeez, you know, and I felt a lot watching that stuff, you know. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh no, I felt bad for the characters because it was like, oh, they're
yeah.
so oblivious to reality, and it's just sad because they're so happy in such a horrible fight. And it's like I appreciate optimistic characters like that. Like I don't like to see just, you know, like stupid Disney sidekicks or whatever that they're just there for cuteness or whatever. So it's like Olaf shit like that. But this was like the right amount of it's cute, like demented, you know. And optimistic despite like all the horrors or whatever that could transpire. It was nice. It's just all the stuff around that was like cool. You know, you're doing the Fast and Furious family plot. We got to save our family, Rocket's family, but otherwise it was just, what the hell was this?
Yeah.
But another interesting little snippet I found.
I did find Mantis and Drax to be hilarious in that movie, though. They had some really good jokes in it.
Huh. This is just something funny to share. Is it?
Transfer is available to the 6, 7.
Oh, that's hilarious. The guy passed out, so he snaps a selfie on his phone and puts it back.
That's funny.
I did that when I was in the Army. When I was in San Antonio, I had this girlfriend for a while, and I had to take like the bus to get to her or meet her somewhere. And then on my way back, there was like some random black guy just like fell asleep, and I like took a picture of him. Let's check out this chat really quick.
Yeah, I've had a couple jobs. You don't want to leave your phone sitting around, or they'll do that. Like,
Yeah. When it comes to the Marvel movies after Endgame, is this a lot of the characters have lost the plot after said film. It says I'm pretty much watching older movies nowadays. I'm not paying for trash. I sort of am that way. I've been that way for a while. I'm going backwards, finding stuff new to me, and that's what's great about getting into Comicsgate for me. Is like, all right, there's new potential with all these different creators that is like uncensored. It's unhindered by editing and whatnot. But because of that, it's got me into reading comics. Not a great comic reader, but it's all new to me, despite having seen a lot of films where it's like, oh, well, that's the story that is the main through line for a movie. So yeah, it's all new to me. So it's fun and fresh. Like I just read the Thor prelude to Bendis's start of the Avengers, the Disassembled. And it's like, oh my god, this Thor Ragnarok 6-issue story. The film has a lot of good stuff in it, but you read the book and you're like, what? Oh my god, they did nothing compared to the book. The book's so crazy. Yeah.
well, don't you? I'm sorry.
Go on.
What I was gonna say, I mean, don't you think I understand you don't maybe want to see something slightly different when it comes to these movies, but when you're adapting an actual story or something, I think sometimes they take too many liberties with them. Sometimes it's just in my opinion, they don't follow enough of the source material, and I don't need them. That's what a lot of people want. I think a lot of people do want that though. Yeah.
Right, but then it's just like, oh well, they just did the thing I already know. That's why Infinity War's so awesome, because you read Infinity Gauntlet, then you watch the film, and it's like, all right, half the characters aren't even available. So how are they gonna, who's gonna be Silver Surfer?
True.
In the Infinity Gauntlet story? And so
was
they did.
Was there a film? Was there a film that you say adapted a comic story pretty well?
You asking me? Or...
Yeah. Hoff. Yep.
I mean, not really.
Well, it's like with the original. Or
I think
with
Moon Knight
Iron Man
had potential.
With Iron Man 1, I mean, there's a lot of different stories they could take from. It seems like they did something okay. I thought the third act was kind of dumb, but they pretty much, it's a comic superhero thing, so you have to do a superhero fight at the end. And
that's way far, but that's a very good example. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I would say it's you're watching a new comic story that can blend multiple iterations, and that's the fun of it. Because sometimes you'll see that in comics where it's like, all right, here's where Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver come into the Avengers in the 70s, and then they'll blend that in or tie that initial intro into Avengers Disassembled. They wrap it back into the story. It was interesting. And of course, that original story had nothing to do with where we're at now, but this is them building or connecting what would be different iterations that you would think, well, that's back then, this was the plot, and now we're here. And so you might take the same template team. That's what's fun about comics already have so much mix mash storylines depending what you want. Gore the God Butcher, and he's in the Thor comics in 2013 by Jason Aaron. And Donny Cates, when he's on Venom, he tied in the Necro Sword into Venom and the symbiote hierarchy and this Newell god and stuff. When I don't think that was necessarily something intended, but Donny Cates used it well and made a whole new context now. So yeah, when I watch these comic movies, I'm watching them as oh, here's a new comic story. As long as I get the character, the basis of the character and his motives, worldview and whatnot, as long as they do that right, it's awesome. That's why Batman is an immortal character, because there's so much to play with him with. Despite Martha and Thomas Wayne die, he has Alfred. He goes trained to do karate and psychological criminal justice studies and whatnot.
Scooby-Doo mysteries. Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, Scooby-Doo in a more comedic setting works with Batman, or you can do the Batman. You can do Dark Knight, where it's the ideal of Batman, or you can do, even though it sucks, that iteration, throw him in the Justice League, where it's got metahumans and he's just a guy with money and willpower. So that's the beauty of comics to me, and the adaptations. I agree with comics explains yeah, I know these stories. I don't want to see the same exact thing on screen. I want to get surprises. How are you going to play different with the story?
Well, I guess like Civil War did a pretty good job with that too, I guess. Not completely accurate, but I mean, I'm not even familiar with all these stories. Like a lot of people, man, I think a lot of the moviegoers are more casual and they don't read the comics either, so you could probably get away with it a little bit, you know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
But I
I've
thought
heard
Civil War
some.
did a pretty good job. Yeah.
I've heard some people say that they would have preferred that Captain America Civil War had a different name to it, and then they'd love it more. Like, because they're not, for them who have read the comic, don't think about the comic when they see that one or something. Because otherwise, like, yeah, this is actually pretty good. It's just not the same story that happened in the comics. And
Yeah,
but,
well, it's funny rewatching Civil War or even Endgame with like the huge ensemble of characters in that, and then you read the comics with an event like that, and it's like so underwhelming. Like, you know, Civil War is like there's like what 15 people fighting, and in like the comic, it's like the whole superhero community, and the X-Men are just sitting to the side for the most part. Besides like Wolverine, will jump in because he's kind of X-Men and Avengers and X-Force, so he's got a lot on his plate.
Well, also, a movie it can get very expensive when you have to pay that many stars to be in one movie. You were talking about back then. We're talking about Robert Downey Jr., Chris Evans, Tom Holland,
Oh, yeah.
Chadwick Boseman.
yeah, make a
Scarlett
cameo at the end of the
Johansson.
Hulk real quick, and it's like, oh, that's a whoa, okay, all right. Exactly. Well, here's another question that I find interesting. Like, do you think that a superhero or comic movie at all, do you think that they need to have, like, at the end of the film, like a huge superhero fight, or if it ended on a different note? Because, like, in Civil War, I don't care that much about the huge fight that they have in the airport. But I love the interactions with all the characters, with the events that happen with Scarlet Witch and stuff, and reflecting on their past stuff. That was good. And then when it came to Tony, and I was gonna say Steve, fuck with the Captain America, yeah, and Winter Soldier, it's like that was good up to that point. It led to that being their conflict at the end, just those three. But all the stuff, all the character motivation stuff, was more interesting to me than most of the fighting. You know, like, could you have a superhero movie without a fight, or do you think people would lose their minds and go, "What the fuck was that? There was no huge fight."
I mean, I think that's a staple of it, in my opinion. That's what people go to see, and it's like if you go to a Transformers movie, you don't see any Transformers. You know, I mean, I
Well,
think it disappoints
guess,
some
but
people. I'm just saying.
I mean, I don't know, because
maybe
like,
not do it at the end. Maybe do it in the middle, and then have
Well,
some other stuff at
that's
the-
what I was.
yeah,
That's what I was
makes
saying. I
sense.
was like, I said at the end, like, you know,
Yeah.
like, I don't think that it needs to pretty much have a huge third act, huge fight. But even if there's fights in the beginning, like, I guess I'll use Iron Man again as an example. Like, that film, I think, would have been just as fine without a huge fight with Obadiah at the end. Like, that
Yeah,
was
as
fine
a-
to be there, but I don't think that was necessary at all. You
I
know?
agree, but I mean, you want people to walk out of the theater feeling excited too after seeing it. And if you kind of end on a low note or something, then people aren't going to feel the same way. Why do you think in Rogue One they waited till the very last scene to bring Darth Vader in for that whole big ordeal? You know what I
I
mean?
guess the way I don't think about it in terms of at
They're
the
punching
theater.
up the movie.
Well, I don't think about it in terms of at
Yeah.
the theater, because after the theater, they're only in the theater for a brief time, and then it's how do they hold up after that in general as a film. So, like, you know, I got finished finally watching through all of Game of Thrones with Angus here, and it's like there's not exactly happy dappy moments at the end, or huge, you know, oh, that was pumped at the end. It's a lot of, you know, different stuff, or I don't know, like, it doesn't have to be a huge fight. They skip a huge battle in season 1. It's like just to the end of the battle, and it's like that was fine. Like, they didn't have to show a huge battle. Sometimes battles go on way too long.
Yeah, as long as you
Sometimes
have
they show things that aren't
stakes.
needed. It's like it's really seeing what characters do, because honestly, like, seeing huge armies especially clash, or sometimes seeing heroes clash is fun or fine, but it depends on like how they do it with the characters. I would say with the Obadiah thing at the end of Iron Man 1, it could have maybe been okay, but I feel like that could have been pushed to even a different film if they wanted to have like a full-on conflict with him, to, you know, have a fight. Having it at the end of his at that first film was kind of like, I don't
They
know.
should have just
It
kept him
doesn't-
alive.
Doesn't
Should have
really
put him in
matter here.
jail, and
Yeah.
then
Um,
he could like team up with or get broken out by Whiplash.
Like
That
what
would've
I'm
made
saying
that
is
more
there could
impactful.
still be a huge thing where he's got to like do something with his suit and still go accomplish something, but it doesn't. Does it have to be a like? Does the amount of punching or kicking and superpowering, like, is there a ratio that needs to be fulfilled or
God,
something? Like, that's the kind of thing I
Mandalorian.
wonder. You know?
We were watching Mandalorian season 3, and there's like my favorite parts was with the Doctor on Coruscant. The boring tangent episodes; those are like the most impactful and most like meaty. episodes, and then you see at the end where it's like, oh, Moff Gideon, he's been this overarching emperor character in this show since the end of season 1. And then it's like he's got the dark saber, Mandalore. Whoa, like that's big implications. Darth Maul had that shit, took over Mandalore. And then it's like, oh yeah, I just harvested all this Beskar to make a super Beskar suit. So then we're punching each other in Beskar. And it's just, what the hell is this? Where's the impact? Where there's
and
no
then Baby
stakes.
Yoda's running.
And then Baby Yoda does
the guards.
he does a We Are Groot moment, shielding them, and it's just like, oh, okay, it's over, whatever.
Like what are we watching?
I think
and he fights the Praetorian guards, and he's just like playing like whack-a-mole with the Praetorian guards, which is like, it's fine to be silly moments. Star Wars, I mean, there's the fucking Ewoks, like that's the worst thing in Star Wars in my opinion. But
worse than Jar Jar.
Fuck yeah, Jar Jar has impact. Jar Jar has meaning.
Jar Jar, by the way, and I don't care who hates me for it.
Jar Jar had some actual narrative sense in the plot and everything. As much as they hate him,
without Jar Jar, you would not have the Gungans to unite with the Naboo and fight the droid army and equalize against them. Otherwise, the Naboo would get fucking butt fucked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a narrative purpose with Jar Jar.
He also could be a Sith Lord, but that's a whole different
discussion.
Yeah,
that whole CGI thing. I believe in Darth Jar Jar.
That's
Unfortunately, everyone called it racist, and so George listened to the fans in a meaningful way. He's like, all right, let me just like sideline him and redirect this story. But
that was a lot to sort of put forth for you to think about. But like, I guess when you think of Civil War, like the comics, like, did you read that run?
I've read them. Yeah, it's been years, but I've read even the second one with Captain Marvel. I read that bullcrap.
Well, it's like, do you like the parts that you remember of it? Is it like the panels where they're fighting each other, or like the character stuff?
No, there's a lot more character stuff, I feel like.
Yeah, so I don't know. So I guess like with theater audiences, I guess that's the question. I guess is like,
you
can
don't want to lull people. Yeah.
I guess
very short attention spans.
To me, it's not lulling. To me, it's just it's not a huge action throwdown. It's there's different stuff being accomplished that sustained, that is substance and has meat. But do they even notice that it's meat? Is the problem? It's like, I don't know. The characters are talking. No. I don't know.
I mean, that was a big part of what is considered one of the best Marvel movies, The Winter Soldier, which is one of my favorites as well. It's like you get a couple fight scenes in there, like the one with the Sam Jackson, on the bridge and stuff, and then you get the big fight between Cap and Winter Soldier at the end. But in between, it is a lot more just like that actor. Who's the actor that plays the main guy and the main
Chris
bad
Evans
guy?
Or Sebastian
Stan.
Yeah.
No. The politician guy.
Oh, Robert Redford.
Robert Redford. Yeah, that guy. There's a lot of like, he's not a fighting villain at all. He doesn't get out there and punch or anything, So a lot of his stuff is just talking and negotiations and finding out he's a two-faced criminal. Yeah. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, and I don't know. I feel like stuff like that is
like
something that I wish more people would want to see. And there's a lot of action type of moments. I mean, just the elevator scene and him just being on the run in general has a lot of high intensity for moments, though. I think there's a lot of stuff in there that's a little ridiculous, but yeah, like there's still a lot of like blood pumping stuff in there. And that's what I'm saying. Doesn't mean to have no drive, to have no action or no hype, but does there need to be a big climactic superhero fight at the end of everything? I didn't see it, man, Quantumania, but I mean, all these the ones that they seem to do in Phase 4 is just huge freaking battles at the end of every movie, and it's like, even like Thor Ragnarok, all these ones, some of them are fine, some of them are different, but most of them are pretty much similar. You could just take a character out of Black Adam, take one out of Thor Love and Thunder, take one out of Quantumania, whatever, and just mix them around. It's the same thing practically, just a different taste of the same thing. And it's like, is this what you guys want to see? Just this? Or what was it, Shang-Chi, whatever, dragon thing, but it's just like nothing's happening either? Like, I don't know.
What do you think? Maybe that's why people are having fatigue on some of these movies, is because it's just the same thing over and over, basically, for the main part.
Oh, there's
second and third act. Like,
there's no meaning. It's just, we did what works, and now we're just going to keep pumping it out until it fails, and then we'll adjust. It's never them trying to push the boundaries, never them pushing the envelope. Infinity War, yeah, it's based on a comic, so you can know the general ending and stuff. And comics are meant to be just never ending until sales plummet, and then you cancel, reboot, whatever. But it's like stories last when you're pushing the envelope, when you're making a statement. Infinity War was probably the biggest pop culture statement since Empire Strikes Back.
Well, and that's a good example of them. Like the fight scenes in that, I think, are really good because it's not just a bunch of things happening. It's like there's like this character's trying to do something, and these characters are trying their best to stop him. And that's the way they're doing it. And they're trying to like reason with him or something. He's trying to get them to understand his point of view. And like that was some good back and forth stuff. It wasn't just I'm gonna punch you. I'm gonna punch you harder though. And it's like that kind of stuff is what. Just like I roll my eyes sometimes. Like again, when we're watching Mandalorian, I was like, they're shooting lasers at each other. Pew 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 pew. I'm just like,
they're all wearing Beskar. What's this even doing?
I don't
What
care.
is this? It's meaningless.
It's fight scene time, and
looks good. It looks amazing. The CGI is good. Even it's aesthetically pleasing Star Wars, but it's like there's no risk. Like when Anakin and Obi-Wan fights, two guys on a fucking volcano planet, just being there could get them killed.
Yeah, we watched Book of Boba Fett as well, and it's like there's like Chrysanthemum, the Wookiee or something. He like goes to Boba Fett while he's asleep and throws him around, and then they tase him a little.
He's a bounty hunter, and the guy's asleep in a tank. He could have like stabbed him, and it's meaningless.
This whole fight scene, I'm like, why was this even here? Like, what was the point of any of this? It's just. I don't know if they want fight scenes, right?
Yeah, like you could do the same plot and it'd be good, but the execution is just like so low tier, and that's what me and like Game of Thrones. There's you have a prequel show, and the ending of the main show, and people like wow, and there's almost no fighting in it, and it's so impactful. The ending is like two characters coming to duels on accident, and it's so impactful. And then you talk about like Transformers. Transformers 4 is the last one I've seen besides Bumblebee. I can't tell you anything. It was just like an hour-long slog of just CGI mess with no meaning. Because, of course, they're going to do another one if they can. Because they're just making money with CGI slop. There's no impact. And same with The Hobbit. Like, I like The Hobbit trilogy for all its flaws. But, God, that last one is such a slog.
What if they did a Transformers film with no Transformer robot fight? That'd be funny. Like... That would be funny.
Do a Transformers movie about like dealing, like just people in government or whatever, arguing about like, do we execute them or A-bomb them or all that kind of stuff.
More like a Godzilla movie where it's like the citizens are like, hey, what can we allow this? How do we handle this?
That's honestly the Godzilla movies. They're formulaic as hell, and it's all just kind of razor thin bullshit sci-fi to get to the fight at the end. But like, there's a human buildup, there's awareness of a monster or an enemy monster, and then you get to like, okay, here's your slogfest of Godzilla punching and burning stuff and destroying cities, fighting thing, and then Godzilla wins. End. But it's still more impactful because you get like there's a buildup to it at least, instead of just like whoa.
Did you ever see Shin Godzilla? That one that they came out in Japan there a few years back. That was my favorite one.
I heard of that one. But I haven't seen that one
came
yet.
out. Oh, that's easily the best one because there wasn't another monster in the movie for Godzilla to battle. It was literally just like the world against Godzilla, and every time they try to take him down, they just make him stronger, and they have no idea how to do it, man. I recommend that one. That's my favorite one.
I wish they would do Godzilla with Godzilla's probably my first franchise I was ever a fan of as a kid. That and probably Batman, the cartoon. But yeah, I would like if they would kind of like Cowboys and Ants. They took Godzilla and his monsters, but put them in like caveman days. You're following like a tribe, and they gotta like circumvent like the fucking mess of Monster Island and their existence.
Well, did you see that movie Prey?
Mothra, in the old film, he's got like this like Mothra cult worshiping the egg. Like that's a cool story, and I thought they would include that in King of the Monsters. I think there's little snippets, but
you said Prey.
Yeah, that Predator, that one that came out, like, it was supposed to be, like, taken back to the, like, not
1800s?
ancient days, but, yeah.
1700s?
But, like, I thought that was an interesting premise to do for one. I really do. And
yeah.
There are parts of it I liked, parts of it I didn't care for, but overall, I mean, I just thought it was at least a creative way to go with it,
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the segment with it. I was 50-50 on its quality, but they did things I liked in there, too.
Funny tidbit: the guy directed it, Trachtenberg, I think's his name. He didn't know it was going to Hulu. He thought he was making a theatrical film.
Wow,
He was probably
Good.
disappointed.
that's funny. That's funny.
But before Rookie goes, let's get into the meat, since we're in the meat pit.
Yeah, we got 5 minutes for me here anyway.
Talk about this headline: Target loses $9 billion in week following boycott calls over alphabet-friendly kids clothing.
I was talking about this on my show the other night, man. This is wild.
Yeah.
Rookie,
Crazy.
start with your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's weird that they do that, but it seems like what, June's next month, right? And it's like they seem to only do this for like a month, and then they don't really care anymore for some of these. And I guess like in regards to the boycotting of stuff, it's like, all right, I mean that's fine, but as soon as one company says something and then something else, it's like, what if Bud Light, for example, like tomorrow was like bikinis and bitches and beer is what we're back to again? Yeah. Okay, so now it's okay to support them or not. Like people are trying to boycott Target now, and it's like, yeah, I get it, but it's like, were you buying the baby clothes or what? Like I don't know. Like it seems to be specific products that they are having there with it.
Yeah, I don't even need to boycott the stuff they got because I'm not buying those materials.
There's like a person that like went to the store or something, and he was like, "Hey, do you guys support this?" to the employees, and it's like, the employees don't give a shit. They just work there. Like they don't know. They could totally not like it at all, but they're like, I'm getting paid to be here, so that's what you do at your job is to do your job. So I don't know. I think the trans kids things is kind of stupid. Like that they want to support that they want to support that stuff, but I think some of the response to it is a little over the top as well, because I just think it's just a little face that they're doing, and I don't know what harm having the clothing is going to cause, but I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Let Hoff go.
Oh, I think it's absolutely disgusting what they're doing, especially with the kids' clothes that you can like. They literally make kids' underwear that says tuck friendly, where if you're a little boy, you can pretend to be a girl and tuck your genitals in and pretend like you're a girl. And I don't care if this is adult clothes. I have no problem if there was an adult section with all the pride stuff and blah blah blah. No issue with that. The issue I have is with the kids' clothes, and that's it. That's what all it is when it comes to me, man. I don't even care what that trans. I don't dislike trans people at all. If you're consenting adults, you do whatever you want to do. That's fine. The whole issue is the whole going after the kids thing, man, because that's just the kids should not be thinking about things like this that young, in my opinion. I think it's disgusting. I'm for the boycott, and not that I don't shop at Target that much anyway, nor did I ever buy Bud Light, but
Yeah,
and you could say the Bud Light thing wasn't appealing to kids, but when it comes to Dylan Mulvaney, he does so much content on his like TikToks and stuff that is actually aimed for kids. Like there was that video of him like dancing around pretending to be a 6-year-old, and like that's really it for me. That's the line. Like I said, consenting adults, I don't care what you do, that's fine. Or just you're an adult, you want to dress the way you want to dress, that's fine. All I'm saying is kids do not need to be thinking about this sorts of things at those age period. That's the part that disgusts me. I feel like it's a little bit predatory.
Yeah,
I agree 100% with all that. I just think that I'm not sure what the boycotting of some of the stuff would matter, because when it comes to like, okay, there's one company, two companies, three, so when there's 50 companies, like I don't know, like if Subway suddenly, like I work at Subway were to be like, all right, we're for trans whatever, is it like, okay, well now I have to quit my job and then can't do that, you know what I mean? How much will people shift their stuff? But then what if said company changes their mind later and says something else? Like at what point is it like, okay, you
Bud
can
Light's
support
been trying to
product
do that
again,
Bud Light's been trying to do that, and I think people just think it's a very thin, veiled, very
disingenuous.
Disingenuous. That's the word I'm looking for. Kind of way to like, kind of say, we messed up without actually apologizing. I think a lot of people just want an apology from Bud Light. You're never gonna get that, but I think these need to happen, man, because like I believe, in my opinion, man, I've been talking about this for a while, not trying to go out on a limb. We're starting to have culture manufactured and fabricated, especially in America when it comes to this stuff. Where this is not happening organically. Like these are coming from big corporations. It's coming from the top down. I don't know if you guys know what ESG scores are. It's environmental social governance. And this is basically coming from very high companies down, and it all goes into the social credit score, where if your company doesn't play ball with what this agenda is, then they're not going to give you as much funding to go forward with things. So, you know, if the consumer doesn't like it, and apparently a lot of consumers don't like this stuff, then they're going to know, like, maybe this isn't the right route to go on some of these things, you know?
Yeah, for me, I saw a video by a common idiot, and this isn't like a blasting him. It's just a disagreement, and I commented back and forth to him. I don't know if he's commented back yet, but let me see if I can find it really quick.
And by the way, I don't even blame Dylan Mulvaney for taking the money. He cost him a lot of money, but if he's getting paid to do whatever, how can you blame that guy, you know?
Well, that's kind of what I'm getting at with the companies too. Is that with the ESG thing, it's like some of them might not even care about any of this at all, but they're like, well, I guess this thing says that we'll get points if we do it, so okay. And then it's like, okay, well that cost us a bit. All right, now I guess we're gonna go back to normal now, or something. Like, I don't know. Like it's hard for me to fully follow what about it is, is accurate, I guess, or what they actually think, because the product's the same for all this stuff, and yeah. I don't know, like it depends. Like it's like when it gets like with Disney, for example, like a lot of people want to boycott Disney, and it's like okay, that's fine, and then other things, Netflix, whatever, it's like all right, but so if you watched a movie that they happen to own, it's like, well, you're supporting that. No, I'm watching the movie that's there, but I don't know. I'm not sure that like money necessarily goes into them having more access to do anything with children. Like them having the clothing for the kids, I think is weird. It's very weird, kind of stupid. I don't think they're going to make much money on that anyway. Like even if people didn't boycott, I don't think they'd make any money really on that in the first place.
Yeah, it's going to sit on the shelves. Like you see this with the toys. Whenever there's when if you're in the see all these channels that are like blasting videos incessantly till the story dies about a woke thing, like was it Strange Adventure, Strangeland, whatever came out last year, and it turns out the narrative is about like some gay kid going after some boy he likes, I think, and it's like an adventure or whatever. No one saw it. It didn't look appealing. Lightyear was like, what the hell was this? I didn't see it. Because like it's not Tim Allen, and it sounds like a weird plot with the premise of Toy Story that you're like, oh well, that's on a character that's a real person in this world. And it's like I never had an inkling of that from Toy Story, but my comment on Common Idiot's video about this, I said, so when they pulled triggering merch, am I still supposed to boycott? That's why I hate these debates anymore. He says, I think the boycott should continue even if they pull it all. They show their true colors, let them burn. If they want to target children, they deserve to go out of business. And I said, that's what I mean. I get the sentiment, but if you punish someone indefinitely for a perceived infraction they remedy, why should they even cater to you? And this is the, I think, conundrum of some of these sentiment behind these boycotts is like, oh, I'm never drinking Bud Light again when you were an avid drinker before. And then they do this ad with Mulvaney, and then they're like, hey, sorry, America. It can be disingenuous, but like they stopped the behavior you don't like, but then you're still going to boycott them indefinitely. So it's like, well, your voice doesn't even matter for their marketing, like who to target, and this is where I think the NPC nature, like I talked about on your show, Hoff, in conservatism comes about, where it's like, oh, they triggered us about something, so screw them forever. It's like they'll never remedy this or that, or like with Disney, they made The Last Jedi, so never ever again. And it's like, but they made stuff you would like, I don't think you should punish indefinitely is kind of my thing.
I get that, man. I mean, here's one thing I'll bring up real quick about the Target thing. Like, say you take your kid to Target, right? And you're going through the clothes section with them, and they see this Pride stuff, and they're like, what's that all about? It's up to the parent, really, to kind of explain, I guess, or whatever. You know, it comes down to parenting at that point a little bit, but like if you don't want your kid exposed to things like that at such a young age, which I don't know who would. I mean, there's a lot of crazy parents out there nowadays, but like, what if you just don't want your kid exposed to that? You're just walking around Target one day, and all of a sudden it's just brought up, and now you got to explain,
Right.
you know,
That's
that kind of
okay.
stuff.
I get that argument, but unfortunately, like it or not, this is a reality. There are people that maybe had a hetero partnership and then they have kids, but then it breaks apart, whatever, and they're like, I'm just going to be gay. Maybe they're subconsciously bi, and now they've just gone the other way. But they have children. So now you have children that go to school where it's like, oh, I have a split home. I have a mom and stepdad, and I have a dad and a dad, or a mom and a mom.
I do got a bill for work, unfortunately. Luckily, I'm close to work, so like 2 minutes to get there, but I got to head out, though. This was fun. I shall see you again next week, and I shall talk to you later. Hoff boy.
Hey, good to see you, Rocky. Good to see you, man.
Good seeing you. Later.
You got what I mean, Hoff? Like you're not, the gay parents are a reality for kids more and more. And, so that's going to come up in conversation for kids, not necessarily that it's like a gender identity thing for them specifically, but this is a reality where it's like before no one talked about it. Now it's like, okay, legalized marriage, and you have a variety of parental structures for children going to school. It's like, oh, my mom and mom do this and that, and then like, you have two moms, what? And then so like this is reality. So
I see what
you
you're
can't
saying.
you can't shelter them from reality. I think we get into a slippery slope in
But you're also talking about a very small percentage of people like this in the overall scheme of things. You said it is getting bigger, but we're still talking about a pretty small percentage,
Right, it's only going to grow. And so it's like this
not
idea
our
of like, we got to
population.
shelter, we can't let, we got to hide them from knowing about this. And it's like, this is just reality.
I mean, okay, well, I mean, it just depends on what age you want to talk to them about it or explain these things and how you want to explain it. That comes down to the parent, I guess. I'm not a parent, so it's kind of hard for me to like judge on anything like that.
No, so just to I guess preface, I'm not disagreeing that there is an overt agenda of just shoving this down our throats. Maybe it's from good intent of like acceptance, but now it's gone, rampant. I can agree with that viewpoint because it's like, oh my god, we gotta make this iteration of a franchise be more reflective of reality, and that just means, oh great, they're gonna shove blacks and gays in it, disingenuously, especially for franchises that black people don't give a fuck about. Generally speaking, black people don't fucking like Star Wars. Black people don't like Lord of the Rings. There's a reason it's like a predominantly white fan base, maybe Asiatic, because they have old stories like that. But like, there's kind of ethnically centric storylines, and that's how you get so many stories and franchises. So when you're trying to like add artificially your fan base, it doesn't work.
Yeah. I mean, I see what you're saying with that, man.
Yeah.
I just think you got to do it tastefully. You got to do it in the right way, and a lot of
Yeah.
maybe not like yeah.
This is my chagrin too, with like, you see this outrage and it's like, oh, well, Bill and Frank in Last of Us, that really wasn't a big deal now, was it? Brokeback Mountain, they're fucking blue collar cowboys shooting guns, The only thing abnormal to the average Trumper is they're gay. But you should embrace that. It's like, okay, it's not stereotype SJW, diversity, minority. It's like, oh, this is a pretty nuanced take. Like, just because you're one demographic minority doesn't mean you're pigeonholed. And you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm not gonna get in. I don't want to like talk about religion too much or anything, but when you talk about Trump supporters or conservative people, they are far more Christian or religious based than say more leftist kind of liberal kind of people for sure. And they believe certain things in the Bible, blah blah blah. And I think they want to stick with those grounds. And when they see these things happen in the world, they feel like kind of they can't control it. You know what I mean? And it's just like it feels like the world's going to hell to them. And I'm not that deep. I'm a Christian. I'm not preaching to anybody, but I do have my views on things. But I don't put anyone down for those things, at all. I just think like when you see it more and more in the world, especially when it comes from, which this is completely arguable, a Christian nation, completely debatable on that one, like founded on Christianity. I really don't know if that's true or not. Probably not. But I don't know. I just think
Well, I just add
losing
this.
values. Yeah.
I would just add this for you with that note of the Christian nation. I would say yes, this is a Judeo-Christian derived nation, but they came here to make a secular government not controlled by theocracy, like they were dealing with.
You're not wrong there.
In
See?
England, and the founding fathers are almost all Freemasons. So you can see like if you were drawing a picture to represent like Christian thought and Freemasonry, they'd probably look the same, but the actual thoughts behind it is completely different. Like the founding fathers, they were mostly deists, so they believe in God in a very strange, abstract way compared to like a Christian is like hard set on like these points are like in stone, and deist is like it's a broad spectrum, it's a broad idea, you know. It's that's why you get like the founding documents where it's like, yeah, they talk about God, but God, it's in capital, it's an idea, but it's not like directly, you know, Christian God made in the image, or you know, we the people, and all, you know, all that stuff. Yeah, mentioning God. So people get this, you know, they zone in on those specific words and they don't understand the people that wrote them. So I just want to add that for you to maybe dig into.
I don't want to sound like I'm being ignorant about things either.
No.
You know,
I mean,
but,
that's just the surface level I know.
Yeah.
Is that perception. I need to dig more myself to really understand. But, you know, Thomas Jefferson wrote his own Bible to give you some knowledge.
What'd you say? Thomas Jefferson wrote his own Bible?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
I don't know what he took out or whatever, but yeah, he I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think he very much minimized the mysterious, miraculous nature of Jesus. Yeah.
I don't know if that's a good thing to do as a man. Well, I mean, who knows? But see, like I said, I'm not trying to be ignorant or anything. I'm
not calling you. Don't think I'm calling you ignorant.
Yeah, no. I don't think you are at all. I'm just saying I'm not trying to put myself out that way. Like I'm actually a pretty open-minded person when it comes to a lot of these things. Very open-minded about it, and it just feels like, I don't know. It just feels so fabricated sometimes. Like, you know what I mean?
Oh, I agree.
Yeah. And, you know, I start seeing things more and more and more where I'm just like, I don't know. I feel like we are losing some values in our societies nowadays, you know? I mean, even going to anything like just the way cities are going to hell nowadays. So much crime. I mean, even here in Columbus, dude, you've heard about all the short north stuff going on, like shootings down there constantly and everything. And that has nothing to do with exactly what we're talking about. But I mean, I think losing a little bit of just kind of like a structure to things and just everything just being the Wild West again might not be good for society. I'm not saying eradicate the trans or anything like that. I'm not saying anything like that. I think trans people are citizens just like anyone else. Or
I was just waiting for you to go like Trevor Moore, where it's like, no, you can't say that. You know, you can't say we meet here to eradicate trans. Can't say it. You start escalating. You know, the joke keeps escalating.
Yeah, but it's not where I'm going with that.
Really quick, I want to touch on this specific Oscar nominated a-hole. Connie says, not only the price of, but that freaky Baphomet demon goat god keychain. That's even creepier. So Baphomet's fucking cool to me. Especially being like a rock metal fan. Baphomet's awesome. There's a lot of Baphomet's essentially like a yin yang duality symbology.
Lots of study on this myself.
Yeah. And the thing that irritates me about seeing that Baphomet, where it's like Satan respects pronouns, it's like, oh my god, even Satan has become a meaningless meme that's been corporatized. That's the biggest problem to me, is like, you know, Islam, whatever religion, I want, regardless of my disagreements or full bore, like, you know, hatred, like that group is my enemy, whatever the case. I want them to be full bore. I don't want my enemy to be like just lackadaisical and like the left. You see all these they believe in this, but then we need to go nuke Russia, and they were supposed to be like the hippie party of like peace and love.
Dude, how
It's like
is that?
there's whoever's in charge, they're so fickle, and they're like water. They just go wherever will hold them, and there is no real meaning to their principles that you think like this is their block, this is their foundation that they govern themselves off of. So like Satanists come out like atheistic Satanism. Satan is a symbol like Prometheus. He is, think of like Galileo, inquiry. Satan is this challenger to find insight, intelligence. The 9 tenets of the Satanic Temple is very much like Buddhism. Like scientific Buddhism is what I call it. It's like we believe whenever science discovers or enlightens us on, and if they find new discoveries, we adjust our beliefs based on scientific discovery. That's a big concept in the tenets. That's why I was attracted. So I'm like, makes sense. Again, Satan is a allegory. He's not even real. They're not worshiping the devil. They're not Luciferian.
I was going to make that point. There's a difference.
I remember you saying Luciferian. That stuck with me. I knew that, but so that's what's irritating, seeing Satan commercialized for the pronoun game. If anything, you think like Satan is evil, like you want to say like Satan and Hitler, like the two archetypical memes of modern history of like, that's the bad guy. So you think they'd be like, Satan disrespects pronouns, don't be like Satan. That should be the sell with Baphomet of like, people are like, boo, Satan, you didn't respect my pronoun. But it's like, no, Satan doesn't respect pronouns. The idea, or if he's real, no, he doesn't give a shit.
Well,
I think that's just like, wow, sure, they mock Christianity, or there'll be people that try to appropriate Christianity with their liberal logic, like Jesus was trans because he didn't have a father, so his chromosomes, weird things like that to try to manipulate established ideas to their own Marxist narrative. And that's what's happening now with Satanism. It's loopy. You don't really have a hope on either side,
Well, I was going to say, Hideaway in the Woods has a great comment here, which I was about to say. The Baphomet, I don't think is nearly just an absolutely satanic thing. I think Satanists really like that thing because it's kind of the whole, dichotomy of stuff, the solve, coagulate, the ups and the downs, the invert, the as above, so below. But it is more of an occult thing, as Hideaway is saying, I believe, which occult isn't always necessarily evil or anything. It comes away like that sometimes, but sometimes there's white magic, there's black magic. That's not a race thing. That's just the way they look at these things.
Black people are evil.
No. But
wait, I got something.
What do you think tap water is? It's a gay bomb, baby.
Sorry, continue.
Oh, I'm just saying, like, I totally get, I totally understand what the whole Satanist thing is, because like there's a band I used to like a lot called Alkaline Trio, and the guy with the singer Matt Skiba claims he's a Satanist, but he was not like, he wasn't a Satan worshiper. I think there's a difference between that. You know what I mean? Like, the Church of Satan is more, in my opinion, more about
it's a philosophy, really.
It's a philosophy. It's about more like do what thou wilt sort of thing, rather than serve Satan for evil purposes or anything, and that's the way I kind of look at it. I could be wrong in these things, but I think a lot of things are misunderstood when it comes to Baphomet and occult and what those represent. And then going to like the Luciferian stuff that I was talking about with you a little bit, and where these are the actual evil people who actually worship Satan and want to do bad things. And you don't want to be a Luciferian, you know what I mean? Those are the people who like allegedly run the world, But I totally get I would never be one. But I totally get the idea of Satanism, and I was atheist at one time, then I went agnostic. Now I'm back to kind of like a born again Christian, whatever you want to call it. But I understand the mentality behind it, and I know that just because someone is a Satanist doesn't mean you're like looking to be evil all the time. It's more about freedom to be yourself rather than having to be like being living your life through God's way,
Yeah, Baphomet is, again, he's a very overcomplicated duality symbol.
Mhm.
You know, as above, so below. There's a kind of like black and white ideology there. Male and female.
Mhm.
Um,
The up and the down, the sun, the moon. It's got it
yeah,
all, man.
it's
Yeah.
just it's an overcomplicated yin yang. So I think,
But it looks evil, is when you look at it. Is the thing. It's got horns and stuff like, you know. It looks kind of evil when you look. So
Well,
that,
I think just like with imagery of Satan through, last 1,000+ years, I think that's really propaganda by Christendom, because there's a lot of, like, pan gods, like Pan the goat man, the satyr, and that's a way to vilify that imagery. Is like, oh, Satan has horns and cloven hooves. It's a way to vilify the enemy religion that was already established.
well, the Bible says like Satan or Lucifer is like the most beautiful angel there was before
Oh
he
yeah.
ascended. Yeah.
Well, I mean, we think about that narratively. It's like Ephialtes, the cripple freak from 300. There's no recollection of what he looked like in history, or Herodotus, whoever like accounted for Ephialtes as the traitor. But Miller drew him so like that to, like, narratively symbology show,
Yeah.
like he's deficient and lesser than the noble Spartans. So I think there's some like artistic liberty in that way, with taking amalgamation of enemy religion imagery, and Baphomet's one of those of many.
Let me ask you this: do you think an antichrist could exist, like in real time, like a human manifestation of the antichrist, as they say, as the Bible says?
I don't know. I want to say I've seen somewhere. I don't know what the root of this is, but and I probably got in Greek 'cause it's probably religious rooted, but like that there are many antichrists, just like there's many false messiahs.
Yeah, I think someone mentioned
hence
this to me
Jesus.
recently.
When people read the Bible, they don't realize that there was, in history at that point, there was a lot of people that would say, "Oh, I'm the Messiah," and so there's a reason the Jews are hesitant from the start with Jesus saying what he does. It's not just
Yeah.
they refused him outright. It's like, well, they've been desensitized to all these false prophets. And so that's
I
something
learned
that isn't included in the Bible that would really help, because through history, regardless of my personal views about the chosen ones, there's a reason because of the way the Bible is written in that specific viewpoint, where it's just like, oh, from the start they just don't believe it, and so that justifies a lot of the villainy towards the Jews through history by the Crusaders and whatnot. All the like Christian theocratic governments through history have really targeted them, just for that.
I mean, this is something I just learned about recently, and I can't remember the whole story off the top of my head. It was a couple of months ago. I was watching someone's channel. It might have been my buddy Pete's. He might have been talking about. I might have been. I can't remember, but something about the Jews believe that there are like 30-some people at any time that could possibly be the Antichrist or the Christ or something like that, but it's never to be known. It's weird to me. I can't remember the full story, and I shouldn't even brought it up without full context behind it. But if I could find
No,
more
you got a
information,
smidgen, and someone in the chat might hit you up on Twitter and be like, "Hey, you were talking about that? Here's a link."
yeah. But there's some kind of thing. I had no clue about that until I learned about it, and I found it absolutely fascinating. I was like, okay, that makes a lot of sense to me. I didn't even know that was a thing. But
yeah. As long as you, I mean, you as in anybody, as long as you're talking fragmentarily about like shards that you've heard, with the preface of like, oh, I don't know, I've heard this thing, that's totally fine in my view for conversation, because someone can clarify or help guide you in the more knowledgeable state. So don't ever censor yourself that way. That's for everybody in chat.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I appreciate that, man. Yeah, I mean, if anyone has any more information on what I'm trying to talk about right there, yeah, let me know. I'm sure I could look it up. I can't remember I can't remember what it was called, man. But it was so interesting to me. And these people don't even know. Like they're allegedly like it's not even like they're completely unaware of it. And that was the thing that that like was fascinating to me, you know, and that was like kind of a reason why they don't believe in a Messiah coming down like Jesus and saving us or whatever like that, is because they think like maybe one of them could be a Messiah. I believe. I think that's the way. I think that's the way it kind of works, and it's not Jesus, but it's one of them. That's the way the story kind of goes. Is that Jesus is not the Messiah, but possibly a Jewish person who may not even know it, and they're alive right now, could possibly be the Messiah, which is just like, that's just wild to me, man.
Yeah, one moment. I gotta sign into this thing. Look at it. There we go. Wait for it to load. Continue. I want to share this. Stay me a while. Hoff knows my issues, but
As
for y'all don't know,
my buddy Pete wearing a Resist Reptilians, his T-shirt right now. Lizard people, man.
But no, you know, regardless of my belief, you know, I am someone as an atheist, I still see the value. I don't know. I'm kind of like Nietzsche, I guess. I'm learning a lot about Nietzsche right now. And it's funny because I've told you about my interest in Hellenism, the Greek stuff. That's why I got Athena and the owl.
Your background looks great, by the way, man. I thought you mentioned that earlier. It looks great.
Yeah. I just got, let me see, right there in the back corner, I got this Mystique artwork by Jenny Frison. I love it. But yeah, I've told you about my interest in Hellenism and stuff, and like everything Western is rooted in them. And it's funny because I'm starting to find videos about Nietzsche, and it's like he's already surmised this like 200 years ago. And so I was like, oh my God, now I got to dig into this guy because like to get more insight, he's kind of like he's already articulated things that I'm like trying to grasp at. And it's like, it's so enlightening because like he's famous for the "God is dead" quote, and people really misattribute that. And what he's talking about is like I was telling you, you know, Christendom, it's been valuable for us and unifying Europe, generally speaking, and all its nations, and colonialism, all its successes. But industrialization, we've kind of, in his view, and I agree, gone past it. Its utility, and now we're, you know, grasping for stuff. And so his idea of God is dead is that like we've gone past the use of these established religions, but we're going to go through a lot of pain and suffering seeking the new meaning, the new valuable compass of life. And he wanted to bring back, you know, pagan heroism that you find in like the Iliad, the Odyssey, all these Greek ideals that are implicit in our culture, but so like fragmentary in our back subconscious.
Yeah, just because there's aren't like the Bible or words of God or anything like that doesn't mean you can't find things of value morally or just anything like that in those stories, of course, man. And I'd like to learn more about that stuff. Just because I'd learn more about it doesn't mean I'm going against God or anything. I'm never gonna be in the Westboro Baptist Church.
Is Hideaway one of your people?
No.
Oh, well, go sub to Hoffcast. All that is
it is.
Put a comment in the chat. Hoff, so they can look you up before I get your link in the description.
Oh, okay.
But let's see. Come on, there we go. Pull up my email. So slowly but surely. Oh wait, what's going on here?
Yeah, if Hideaway likes this kind of conversation, I think he'd like my channel.
Sorry, I gotta answer all these emails. I don't know what's going on exactly.
Normally I do like current events theories and stuff like that. You know, I don't talk religion too much on my channel. Yeah, I do go into a lot of, you know, sometimes I'll bring out some deep dives on stuff, but I don't like to come off as preachy either. You know what I mean? I say that just about every episode. I was like, I never want to come off as preachy. I never want to come off as I'm telling you how to think or how to live your life or anything like that, man. I'm just here to share my own views and opinions and have civil conversation about it, you know?
Yeah.
Because I think some people thought we were getting into it the other night, and I was like, nah.
Oh, I don't know why they did.
Yeah.
it's like, no, I'm just, I'm like on the spot. I'm like, oh, I know this and that, and this is what I can offer my knowledge base on this topic, and we're just, countering each other, and people can piece out from what we're saying, which way they fall, or maybe it's in the middle, or maybe it's outside of both.
But I don't want to be in that echo chamber.
Well,
man.
it's because we're just like YouTube, Twitter, all these algorithms feed polar, and it's funny because like I'm really in the center. It's like I'm conservative, nationalistic, but I'm an atheist, and I'm a veteran, but I'm black, so I should hate the government. I'm bi, but I hate the alphabet agenda because it's artificial and it's silly. And it's not promoting, like, you can be alphabet and not be a fucking heathen, and that's that's all that they're selling, those heathenry. And it's like, it doesn't make, you look at the Spartans. One of the greatest societies in history. They were fucking institutionally gay until marriage age after the Agoge, and the only reason they fell was because they lacked, it wasn't their society necessarily, it was that militarily they lacked ingenuity in conflict. They wouldn't use bows and arrows, for instance, and the Athenians would slaughter them. Like silly shit. Like that's why they fell, not because of.
If 300 were like mainly gay, maybe that's why they never made it over 300 of them.
No. Their problem was they were kind of overzealous with the. They were wanting to make like I guess you could say a purity. They had like a supremacy ideology. They're trying to make the best warriors for the homoioi, top class. And
not
so you had a lot of abortions.
Ripped dudes walking around. who wouldn't resist? You got
it worked for 1,000 years. So
yeah.
how many nations have fell and risen in just Europe or Africa? Let me see. Let me present this. Wait, let me see somebody's chat. It's having fun. No, I just pumped up. I look up blind videos and saw y'all. Cool. Well, I appreciate sub to both of us if you don't mind, and the rookie critic.
Yeah, that's a rare thing to happen right there, man. Just someone. Out of nowhere.
He says, "Dude, I'm Jewish. We get into fights over issues, and we keep it civil." Yeah, that's just normal humanity. And I've talked about this with someone. It's like, he's like, oh, I like to be political or whatever. People, I just like to deal with. And it's like, no, you should embrace the divisiveness. Before we would all get along, and we would, mostly put aside religion and politics and just be friends regardless of our actual disagreements. But these have become so focal in our lives that it's like, oh no, I think the government should put a gun in your face if you won't get a shot. And it's like, I don't think we should be friends. I think the politics coming into friendships is a good thing, because now we can sort each other out better. Because like, this is years ago, before this was ever common talk. But like, when I first moved to Ohio, I had this friend at work. We worked at Walmart. We were stalkers, so like almost no one's coming in overnight. And he asked this one, like, "Oh, do you need help?" And she's like, "I don't talk to cisgender males." And it's like, I didn't know what the fuck that was. It was back in 2016, and I'm like, cisgender, what the? Now look where we are,
that's something they always used to say back in the day. Is like, what do you never bring up at like family get-togethers? Politics and religion, And then you hear all these jokes now. It's like, oh, your crazy Trump uncle at Thanksgiving. Watch out for that guy, And I'm not saying they aren't out there, but
Oh yeah, QAnon showed the crazies on our side.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I am getting commission for artwork for Meth Gator in homage to this art. Now, I've tried to read this comic. This is from like 2012, Red Hood and the Outlaws, and it's fucking awful so far. I hate DC in general besides Batman. I just pretty much ignore DC for all eternity besides Batman stories. But I just love this piece. It's by Ed Bennis. And I'm like, I want someone to do a piece like this. I actually contacted Ed Bennis himself, but he's going to cost me like $3,000 to get something like this. So I'm like, haha, yeah, all right. But I'm talking to this guy, and he's setting out the layouts for me. Let me pull it up, and I'll share it.
You're never even like a Superman kind of guy or anything like that?
No, fuck Superman. So this is the layout so far for what I'm getting.
Wow.
as an homage. So yeah, it's gonna be fun. So this is layout, and I'm like, "What's he doing with his hand?" And I'm like, "Is he gonna have a beer?" And he's like, "Well, no, but do you want him to?" I'm like, "Sure, make up like a Mexican beer." And of course, I got a Charger because it's like an homage to Dukes of Hazzard because the character's in Georgia and Hazard, Georgia, for the show. So that's something in the works for Meth Gator. This will probably be one
It's
of the
gonna be like a
covers.
General Lee.
I've thought about directly getting a General Lee homage with the Confederate flag, but it's like for my first comic, I don't want to have a Confederate flag explicitly on like selling imagery, just in case,
Gotcha. Yeah.
just to make it more encompassing. But this isn't a comic for pussies. Like this right here is just self censorship for right now, but in the future, totally open to having a Confederate flag. But where the story goes, he's not going to stay in the South forever. So, but yeah, this isn't going to be a pussy con. People hear Meth Gator think it's going to be a comedy, and it's like might be a little comedic moments, but like I'm playing this straight. He's a real character for me.
Well, you've had this idea far longer than Cocaine Bear, you know.
Yeah. There's actually a Meth Gator movie from like Sci-Fi or something like that coming out, but it's like nothing like what I'm doing. And I talked to like a lawyer about maybe copyright infringement or something because I have sold posters with Meth Gator, so I have common law trademark legal protection.
Yeah.
But he's like, well, you probably can't copyright just Meth Gator, and so there wouldn't be any issue because like it's too basic a term. It'd be like if a company copyrighted dog brand, like the brand dog could be trademarked to it, but like just dog cannot be. It's so common use. So when I trademark it, have to be like Black Angus's Meth Gator or the company's Meth Gator, just like Marvel's Thor. So that's why they call it Marvel's The Avengers.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean by that. Because like, whenever I used to collect the Marvel figures, man, I noticed like some of them would say like Marvel's Nova on it or something like that, rather than just like Iron Man, you know?
Yeah, because you can't just copyright Nova because Nova is like a astronomical thing, you know.
Supernova, yeah.
Yeah.
What if you call it like Methicus Gatorus or something like that?
That'd be a cool variant idea. Methicus Gatorius. Let's see. Just what I was trying to say. On second thought, I'm Christian. I should say Jesus is my favorite Jew.
No, yeah, not wrong.
Wait, who's MJF? Greatest heel wrestler.
I'm not sure.
I don't know who that is. He's a wrestler of some sort. As a nation, everyone has become so polarized. Everyone feels like their identity and life are under attack.
I was thinking Michael J. Fox.
Whether they are or not. We all need to demoralize a few notches. Yeah, so like with this Target thing and stuff, I don't know if you saw the Jeremy's chocolate thing after Hershey's. Do you remember the Hershey's?
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, I saw these commercials, these ads, yeah.
Right, okay, it's like cringe. But then, this is where the right is always failing. And this is my problem with the Target boycott, the Bud Light boycott, any of these reactionary, in a month, people have forgotten mostly. There'll be tangents that will hold the banner, hold the line, but it doesn't really matter. The right doesn't make culture, unfortunately. Like, we have a culture from our founders, and then it's always deteriorating from the start.
Yes, that's kind of
maybe we get definition here or there about a topic, but overall, we're talking about history, not just America. History, you have like a high point, and then it just declines every time. And the right doesn't offer culture in the modern day. We're just trying to like hold a line. We're not offering anything. There's a reason every dumb kid in college is like, yeah, communism, free education, pay off my student loans, which I have student loan debt. I'm totally open to Biden paying it off, even though I'll have to pay the taxes later on down the line to pay for that bill. But
I do too. I haven't signed up for that thing he was going to do. That never happened. But yeah.
Well, yeah, he doesn't have that. That's a House of Representatives thing. But this is my problem. Is like, what is the right offering? You get Jeremy's chocolate with pronouns. Oh wow, the unwoke alternative chocolate is pronoun bars. That's going to fight the pronoun bars from
Well,
Hershey.
Yeah, I see.
They're
exactly
just
what you're
using you
saying.
for fucking
Yeah.
pay pigs, you know? That's
Mhm.
my problem, is like we're not offering anything. That's why I've become a return guy to Greece, you know? That's real culture. That's been the highest culture. Greatest art is Greek. And then the Renaissance was just reaching back to Greece and their art. And that's kind of reinforcing my Nietzsche perspective of like Greece, that's where we got to go culturally. If we want to preserve anything or reach for highness, reach for heights, is that. Even the Romans, they did great infrastructure, but they just copied the Greeks. That's been the highest point of humanity.
Well, you're not.
And
you're
there
not
was a
wrong.
duality because the Greeks were like still part of nature. You know, despite all their feats, they were still subject to nature, still subject to plagues and war and famine and droughts. And we don't have that problem. A dust bowl hits, well, we'll just buy food from somewhere in the meantime. You know, we're so affluent. We're above real harm. And that lack of harm, that lack of death around the corner for our society, that's what's killing us. On top of we have no enemies, legitimately. We fought the Taliban. They just guys in flip-flops with AKs, and they kicked us out of their country after 20 years, you know, because we weren't really about it. Because fighting in Afghanistan, Iraq, wherever, Korea, Vietnam, even Japan, if they really wanted to hold out with like sticks and whatever, like at the end of the day, whatever war we're fighting, we're just gonna go home, you know.
Yeah.
We have
we
America to
put
go back
out of
to.
Afghanistan pretty poorly. $80 billion of military equipment left over there. So.
Oh no, I think it was like hundreds of billions.
Oh, phew, that's even worse. I heard it's like.
They're flying.
80.
They're figuring out how to fly our Blackhawks,
Oh, jeez. Yeah.
which
that wasn't a good
I'm all about it, man. Like, you know, it sounds counterintuitive, but I'm rooting for our enemies. I'm rooting for Russia. I'm rooting for China. Rooting for the Taliban, whoever else wants to pop up. North
so maybe
Korea.
You think that would unite us maybe a little bit more as a country?
Yeah,
back
that's the
back
thing.
9/11
With
and stuff.
9/11,
Mm-hmm.
everyone was scared that they might get suicide bombed by Muslims. And so everyone, regardless of their, you know, individual politics, we're all kind of on the same, like,
We've
we
had
gotta
it
stick
too
together. Yeah. And that's the big thing I've realized is like the Cold War was like our last enemy was legitimate enemy was Russia, and we outspent them, which was kind of silly on Russia's part because it's like once you have so many nukes, you don't need more. Just the fear of one nuke is not enough. Oh, really?
Yeah. Especially we got missiles that can intercept them, possibly. You know, allegedly. Who knows? But this was bound to happen eventually with this country, man. Because we've been known as the melting pot, of course, and you know, America. It was like, yeah, let's all just kind of like get along here for a while. But now it's just become this. It's like now we're becoming divided because maybe we just haven't had it or have had it too good for so long. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And,
There's been multiple historians. Camille Paglia, you should look her up. She has some interesting conversations. She's I guess, second wave feminist. So her stories, like she's an art professor, I think, and she has a lot of talks. She's in the J.K. Rowling, like she's kind of a TERF. And she's like, well, when we were in school as young women in the 60s, we wanted the freedom to be raped. And it sounds like extreme, like what? And it's like, you know, the boys could go out and whore around, whatever, and have no curfews, but the college would act as a secondary parental unit for women in school, and they were rebelling against that because they wanted the same freedom as men to go out into the world, but that also includes the freedom to get harmed
yeah.
like men. And so now she sounds radical to our safe space culture, and she talks about Star Wars. She has some videos out there about Star Wars and stuff, and George Lucas.
Check
and yeah, she's hung out with Jordan Peterson. Really good conversation she's had. She talks about every society, their art especially, you see it, they get feminine. Like Alexander, a lot of the art you'll find that's preserved of what Alexander looks like. No, he was like a brawny dude, but over time they emasculated him along with everyone else, and then eventually it declined. and this is like a recurring thing. It's like gender becomes a weird thing, you know, and like sexual gratification. Well, I would say instantaneous. It's time preference. When you think about sex, is like before it's like, all right, you want to like get a job, get stable, find a wife, have kids, have a house, you know, get these long-term ventures that you're working towards.
Mm-hmm.
You know, 5 years we're gonna go to Disneyland, go on a American go out west and see like Yellowstone or whatever. Long-term investments. Now it's like Netflix, you know. I want the whole show now. Like the fact that Amazon and Disney make you, and it's for money, but the fact they make you wait for like 2 months for a whole show to drop completely, week to week, each episode, I applaud them for that. Not only is it a good money practice in my view to keep your subscription longer, but don't give people everything at once, you know. And
No,
like that's
totally
that's a
agree with
small
that,
thing.
man. Yeah.
But this is our culture: is instant gratification. We have no long-term time preference now.
Man,
And
I'm
you
not
see
gonna lie,
it.
dude. I love that anticipation between episodes and stuff. You could have discussions for a week about what's going to happen on Breaking Bad, you know, and stuff like that. Like, yeah, that whole they were doing the binge watching thing, and I think they went back to doing the more like putting out episodes one at a time.
Star Wars, you know, you gotta wait 3 years for a Star Wars when you're doing a trilogy.
Well,
Like,
even
that's so
Stranger
nice.
Things split up their season into two halves. I think this past one they did like the first 6 episodes, and then they took like a month break, which is cool because you could have a little bit of discussion of what's going on, and then they put out the last 3. I love Stranger Things. It's like one of the few shows I actually like watch when they come out.
I feel bad off because I binged the crap out of the first season when it came out, got into the fervor. I'm like, man, that was so cool. And then season 2 came out, and it's like, still fun.
Season
and then
2 is my least favorite.
The opening of season 3, after all these kids have done this crap, experienced all this Demogorgon stuff, and then season 3 is like, yeah, we're at the mall, and it's a whole new show. They have like no sense of like dread, or like in a counterexample would be It Chapter 2, you know, years later, 20 years whatever after that event, they all got baggage that is fuzzy because like the further you're away from Derry, you don't quite remember everything because of it. But like that was missing at the opening of season 3, and so I checked out the first 5 minutes. I saw that, and I'm like, whatever. But then I hear all this good shit going forward, so I'm like, I guess I gotta get back into it. But it's so far down the pipeline for other shit.
Season 3 was really good. Season 4 was amazing. I want you to read Hideaway in the Woods comments about Tom McDonald. You know I love Tom McDonald.
I listened. I meant to text you. I listened to that song, and I liked most of it, but the Tom McDonald parts.
Which one? The End of the World one? Which one was it? Space Trash. That's the one I sent. Space Trash. Yeah. That was a Brandon Hart song. That was not a Tom McDonald song, but
he featured though.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I enjoyed that until I heard him. And then it gets back, and I'm like, oh, that's good. Back to Tom McDonald. So,
well, if you don't like his actual music, maybe just like listen to the words, man. Because dude, he's telling it as it is, man. Like he's like the most woke, one of the most not woke, but awakened artists out there. You know what I mean? Like,
no, I get it. I've heard some of it. I'm friends with Vets Talking. They've blew up because of Tom McDonald watches, whatever. It's cool, but it's first of all, music's not for me. And then I'm very weary after Black Rifle Coffee, and you look at Daily Wire, where it's just like they're looking out for the next pay pig event of like, oh, you're triggered by that. Well, we're gonna make Jeremy's beer with the correct pronouns. It's like I'm very weary of performative patriotism, of performative anti-wokeness to just, well, I'm gonna cater to the other side that's hungry for anything, and that just like this thing I'm talking about culture, like
he's actually Canadian.
Gina Carano, it's like I'm totally in support of her and her issues with Disney and how they fucking Nazified her, in the media and stuff, and just shit canned her while she was on a live stream. She found out on a live stream that she was not getting her show.
Yeah.
Screwed up.
And then they allow Pedro Pascal to basically go out there and do the same freaking thing on Twitter. That's what.
Yeah, and it was funny is like, make your answer what you want about the anti-Semitism, which of course is silly. She's pointing out like this is a political event in history that is like the ultimate. We don't want to go here, so we're always just puckering up at any possibility of anything Nazi-like happening. she makes an apt comparison of like, well, like, sure, we know Auschwitz and all that, but like this shit started with little cuts of division by the government targeting a class of people. Doesn't matter if it's ethnic or race or religion. It's just you target a class and other them. This is how it starts. You start unpersoning the enemy politically. And that was the point she made. And it was pretty clear to me. And it seemed like a good unifying idea. And then, of course, people got to spin it for anti-Semitism because anti-Semitism's a bludgeon, just like transphobe, whatever. And, you know, Pedro, he did it with sharing a picture of, it was like kids in cages narrative, but it was actually like, I think in Palestine, these kids have to walk so far to like go to a well to get water. So they weren't even like being captured or anything. It was literally just, this is where you get water. And he's like, oh, these poor Mexicans, you know, Trump, boo-hoo. And it's like, wow.
Did he also compare all Trumpers to Nazis? Did he not do that?
Yeah.
Like, like, I think that's a bit worse than what Gina did, but just in my opinion. I'm actually, I'm excited.
But what I was going to add about that is like, as much as I'm in support of her with that fight, it's really knowing the incessance of Gina Carano, like she's a fucking saint or something. You know, people love saying pedo-wood about Hollywood, but then, oh, well, Johnny Depp, because he's fighting against a Me Too allegation, so like he's our guy. And it's like, this dude's had success for like 30 years working in pedo-wood. He's part of the problem. Like, whether he's directly doing it or if he's just, he's had to have turned a blind eye at some point in his life to Harvey Weinstein type shit.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Epstein type shit. He's had to have turned a blind eye.
You either turn the blind eye or you're participating. And I won't forget.
And I don't necessarily blame them. I don't blame these actors being in that state. Tarantino's admitted, like, oh man, like I was kind of weird and I didn't do anything. You know, whoops. Like, what can you do? Because you fight back. You're fucking blacklisted. You're othered.
You might get taken out. You know, for all you know.
What was it? Was it Corey Feldman or whatever? Like, his life's been ruined because of putting these allegations in the public, you know? Like,
no, yeah.
So I don't,
for that guy. I know he's
I
crazy,
don't blame people for being quiet against powerful men doing this stuff.
But I also won't forget whenever Johnny Depp said he wanted to assassinate Trump either, so he did say that.
I am totally for his right to say that. But if it was on the right, woo, you know, people do love grasping the Kathy Griffin thing. It's like, well, actually, she did get investigated by the FBI for that, for the Trump severed head gag.
Yeah. I couldn't stand Kathy Griffin before I even found out because, dude, I remember I'm a big Seinfeld fan. She was on this episode of Seinfeld back in the day. She was the most annoying person on that show, dude. I can't even watch that episode. I skip it when it comes on. I can't stand her voice.
Yeah. Women generally are not funny, so probably the funniest woman I know is Shoe on Head.
Yeah, I like Shoe on Head.
She's funny. So I watch her here and there. I'm blocked on Twitter, so I don't always see her updates when she actually uploads. Because I got blocked because I made like a wall joke about her because she's like 30. You think she could take it, but nope. Because it hit too close to home. Yeah, so Howie says that's a good point. No matter how much I disagree, I'll defend their rights to their lives. Just keep it away from kids.
100%.
Wookie says, "Hey, kids."
OG Papa.
Love me some Papa. Yeah. Oh, what I was gonna share is so yeah, if y'all don't know, if you're new, follow me. I've been demonetized for because I was gone for a while on the channel. So this is any of the money that I would have been making, which is practically nothing, would go towards funding my comic I'm trying to make. It costs about 10 to 15 grand to make a comic if you're not doing your own art. So, but it's also so it's essentially like a tip jar, but any money I make and what I do overtime is for Meth Gator. So appreciate if any of y'all are interested in supporting me.
Donate.
You know, I'm not going to be your political avatar necessarily. I have nuanced takes that are kind of against both sides, if you haven't gathered that from this conversation. But I always do stuff honestly, and Meth Gator is the other name I go by. My Mythgator Twitter got suspended. Actually, let me. I'll show you why. Actually,
Hey, I just want to say I'm not a mod, but Hideaway in the Woods. If you want to know my channel, just search Hoffcast in your search bar on YouTube. Should be the first thing that comes up. Got like a green purple logo.
so
Sorry to plug.
No. Yeah, plug away. You're fine. Yeah, so I shared this meme. There was some politician that just kept ranting, trans rights are human rights, or something like that, just like a child hitting the podium and just repetitive implanting, narrative. And so I just replied to it with this meme. And how compelling, please face the wall now. And I got suspended for hate speech. I appealed it. I even used ChatGPT to write me a nice hate speech appeal. And nope, they did not take it. So Methgator is gone for maybe all of eternity. So follow me back on Black Angus.
I think Papa's comment is being censored in the chat. But yeah, I think that's true, right? Like, you can't really just go around threatening to kill people, right? Like,
yeah, I get that, but it's also like if Biden says, kill that guy, we should kill this, that's actionable. He has authority to actually influence a death. But a random citizen spouts off whatever. It's like, is this
well, what do you think about, like, say Johnny Depp says something like that and he's a huge influencer, or say someone like Madonna who's going around saying she wants to blow up the White House while Trump was in it? Don't you think?
Well, that's the funny thing too, is people
perpetuate people, like actual citizens, to do wrong things? Or, I mean, we gotta be smarter than that, obviously, but there are a lot of dumb people out there,
No, I agree. That's really on them, it's like, I'm totally for like the sentiment being said. I'm that extreme about my First Amendment protections for people.
That's fine, dude, as long as you're not acting on it, I can't really argue that. I've had debates about First Amendment, purity for a while, man. And I'd like to think I'm as pure as they get, but, I mean, also, just be nice.
Hoff with his gay agenda.
Hey.
Be nice. I was just talking about that with a friend. I'm like, stop with this goodness stuff, man. I was talking about war and stuff about Ukraine. I'm like, he's like, oh, you should don't do this or support that. And I'm like, no, man, some people need to die. That's just a fact of life. This American experiment of good ideas and what being nice. It's I guess, like a better word, it's nice to have the privilege to feel that way because you're not in danger. But this is reality everywhere outside of UK and America and Australia for the most part, Well,
I'm
I just think we're so sheltered. We're so coddled.
Like, I didn't think Trump incited any violence on the sixth thing.
No, he was saying, go home, don't be nice.
Yeah, I know that.
And, well, he incited a riot.
But yeah. But don't you think like maybe these celebrities who are influencers and the whole world knows who Johnny Depp and Madonna are? Don't you think they could possibly incite something?
Oh yeah, they could make people have cult. But that's what's funny is people forget that with the Amber Heard case. I'm like, yeah, it's our guy, and it's like, this guy hates you, you Trumper. You conservative. He wants you dead just like Trump. Why are you supporting him? That's where it gets silly. Like, that's the thing that bothers me about the Gina Carano thing is, like, this idiot should have just shut her fucking mouth and played ball, got her show, made her something they're relying on for their profits for their products. But no, she wanted to have her principles. That's all nice and dandy, but you could have played it smart, play a long game of like, all right, think of Reva in Obi-Wan. It's like she's a Jedi kid, gets slaughtered, somehow lives through it, and so she works her life to work up the ladder to be next to Vader, because that's actually her goal, is to kill. So it's like she does all this bad stuff for a really ultimate good attempt of taking out Vader. And yeah, that's like a villainous narrative, but it's like, you got to play the long game, and Gina Carano really fucked up. I think she really did I'd rather serve in hell than dine in heaven kind of choice there. Because if she would have played her cards right, got her show, been a bigger star. She's never been a real star. She's been an MMA star, but as an actor, she's mediocre thus far. She's had serviceable roles, but nothing that is like
She's doing Daily Wire movies now, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, she did the Daily Wire. It was a good movie. I saw some growth in her abilities, but that's you went from Star Wars by Disney and everyone's home streaming to Daily Wire Nazi content as far as the narrative will go. And you're talking about 1 million people maybe are watching it versus hundreds of millions globally, and you would have that impact being a much more valid star to say the things you actually feel when you're actually safe, and they have to keep you for X amount of time,
Well, don't you
otherwise
think that
they'd
she
have to Roseanne her.
Don't you think that they saw maybe Gina saw so many other lefties or whatever, or more liberal people getting away with saying basically with whatever they want. And she's like,
agree.
why can't I do that too? And
no, I
agree.
Canceled.
She probably didn't see that was going to happen.
Oh,
she wasn't asking for it.
I don't think she's that dumb. I think she knows. That's my chagrin with her, and the whole fervor of her fandom that shills for her is like, oh, one of the biggest like right-sided stars outside of Chris Pratt that's actually like just plays it straight and doesn't really say anything divisive, keeps everything to himself. Your next star that you're like clinging to is like a 40-year-old plump ex-MMA fighter that's never had a real starring role, and
I'd hit it.
No, yeah, it's totally fine. But I'm saying, like, look at what the left has. Look at all the power they have, both economically.
That's what I'm saying. Is Disney is mainly like a leftist corporation now.
Yeah.
We know that. So, and she's a more conservative valued person, and that just shows how hypocritical the company is to allow all of their other actors to say whatever they want about the right,
no, I
but
agree.
As soon as she says something about the left, bang, you're out. Like
I agree. I'm not disagreeing about that. Yeah. And that's why you need to play the long game and actually really embed yourself behind enemy lines, and make yourself
I see what you're saying.
An asset. She was just on the edge and coming up, and then she cut her knees out from under herself. So the influence she can have, if she was a bigger star, then more people would be fans of her, and then there might be more validity to what she's saying. But she cut her knees out from it, and then she goes to Daily Wire, in the general perspective, hard right alternative news media, with Matt Walsh, a transphobe Nazi. Everyone there's a Nazi. The Jew guy, the face of Ben Shapiro, Nazi. That's the narrative. So she's isolated herself. That's why I say it's like a rule in hell instead of serve in heaven kind of plot that she pulled on herself.
She kept taking that Disney money, is what you're saying.
Took the Disney money and got more influence to spread her message of counterculture. Pink Floyd, that Roger Waters, he's played the game so long, now he doesn't give a fuck.
People know. True.
You watch his Rogan interview. It's like, wow, like this guy's on the left, but he's like a smart leftist. Mm-hmm. I disagree with someone's perspective.
He's old school. There's old school leftists too that don't believe what the newer kind of new age lefties do.
Mel Gibson's a perfect example. That guy, he wasn't saying shit till he's already a superstar, and you can't touch him. He's already like, oh, I can't make a movie in Hollywood. Whatever. Whoop-de-doo. I'm Mel fucking Gibson. I've never made a bad movie. Like,
yeah.
Huge influence. Made the biggest R-rated film before Deadpool. Took like what? 15 years for a Hollywood film to top him at that level of a rated R brutal film.
Which one was that? Braveheart, Patriot?
Oh no, Passion of the Christ.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, which me as an atheist, I love that movie. It's such a like I love works of faith. Last Temptation of Christ, great work of faith. Check it out.
Something weird. Do you want? Oh, this is completely off topic. I mean, not completely, but this happened literally like 10 minutes before this stream aired tonight. So, I got a knock on my door, but I got to rewind 2 weeks to the Coheed and Cambria concert that I went to. I was walking out of the Coheed and Cambria concert, and there's this like a preacher guy on the street, and he starts talking to me. He's a nice guy or whatever, blah blah blah. I talked to him for a few minutes. Nice guy. Prayed for a second. Went on my way. I get a knock on my door. This was in the Arena District in Columbus, Angus, which you know where that is. You know, down by Nationwide Arena and everything. I get a knock on my door like 10 minutes before we go on tonight. I'm like, who's this? I look, it's that guy. It's the same preacher. And I open the door. I was like, how did you know where I lived? He's like, oh, have I met you before? I was like, yeah, I met you down there near the Arena District. He's like, oh, I'm just in the area.
He's like, oh, man, I
everyone's
was
door."
wasted.
Yeah, he was wasted. I remember that.
Had a
But yeah, I
little
just thought-
too much of that miraculous wine, my friend.
and holy water. Yeah. But yeah, I just thought that was a weird coincidence.
Dude, Wookiee Passion is a hard watch. No, it's not. Depending on your perspective, it's funny as fuck. Especially after watching South Park's Passion of the Christ episode, I died. So people don't know, not Passion of Christ. South Park is like a new content for me. I'm from a wacky religious home, so they made Mary bleed out of her ass to mock like a miraculous statue. So that was triggering. So South Park's the devil, despite the context that they make fun of everyone, mostly Jews, and one of them's Jewish. That's the brilliance of South Park. But my mom didn't appreciate that, so I never got to watch that shit. So I'm watching a lot of it with Rookie this last year, and we finally watched the Passion of the Christ episode, and I love it. It's so funny. Like,
Isn't it
the
called the
Pope's
Passion
like,
of the Jew?
I think so, and it's like, Kyle the Jew sees it, and he's conflicted, and he's like, oh well, like the Pope apologized for the Crusades and killing Jews and stuff, and it's like, you should apologize for killing Christ. And then the Jews are like, are you kidding me? And it's like, gotcha. And I appreciate that, a Jewish creator would put that out there. That's hilarious. It's like, no,
I'm
go.
sorry. No, I saw this comedian a few years back. He's kind of famous. His name's Ari Shafir. You ever heard of him?
Yeah, I watch Rogan, so I know of him. I don't watch his
He's a
stuff.
Jewish comedian, and he got into a lot of shiz whenever Kobe Bryant died. And he every time someone famous dies, he like doesn't go on
Shits on him.
like R.I.P. Yeah, he just like does the other route and just like tears them apart, and then it's a big thing. Or cancel that guy. But I saw him live, and the literal name of his tour at the time was just Jew. It's just called Jew. And dude, I saw him, and he made fun of every religion under the sun, and you can't be offended by that. If you can laugh at someone else's thing, you gotta be open to laugh at yourself sometimes. And that's maybe not so blasphemous or anything, but you gotta have a sense of humor about things. And that doesn't just come down to religion, pretty much anything,
Dude,
in my opinion, or else you're gonna have a real hard time in this life getting by. You're gonna be real angry about stuff.
It's funny, like, dude, I don't know if you saw, but like the Prince and Princess of England, Merkel, they made a new episode where it's like, respect our privacy, but they keep like blatantly garnering attention.
Yeah.
And it's like, I watched them, like, that wasn't very funny. But then afterwards, they're talking about like maybe suing South Park, and it's like, oh my god, you just gave them more cannon fodder.
Yep.
Idiots. Like, just shut the fuck up. Like, everyone gets made fun of by South Park at some point. And
Pop cotton salt.
retroactively, that episode's funny with that meme being reality now.
Yeah, dude, it is. I mean, like, it's so, dude, those people are wild. I did not see that episode. I haven't kept up with like new South Park in a while. I really need to get back into it, man. I kind of have to be in a certain mood to watch it, but when I'm in the mood, it's like the best thing ever. Like,
Oh man, I just watched the Catcher in the Rye episode, and it was funny as hell. Have you seen that one?
No, like I said, I probably haven't watched a new episode in a few years.
Oh no, this is like 10 years old or more, but it's
which one happened in that one?
Or no, it's either Catch in the Rye or Catch 22. Catch in the Rye, I think it's a infamous book. It's been banned off and on since it came out, because at the time it was so revolutionary. You had like a kid thinking and saying cuss words, but that's really it. Mm-hmm. So it's like very fractionally mature for the era it came out.
Oh, I know about the book. I just didn't know about the South Park.
Right, and so the kids are supposed to be reading it, and there's like, oh, this book's gotten unbanned. We're gonna read it, and it's saying it's very infamous and all this and triggering, and so the kids are really excited to read it, and they're like, oh my god, I read this whole book and it's like there's nothing to it, and so they're like purposely writing a very spicy book, but it's really just like penis, butt, fart, shit.
Oh,
vomit.
was are you talking about it's like what's it called? McBooger something McBooger?
Yeah.
I remember
Titty
that one.
McBooger face or something like that.
Yeah, I can't.
And
I remember that one now. Yeah.
funny as hell. Yeah. So Hideaway says actually it was the Romans who did the actual killing of Yeshua, the same Romans who became the Roman Catholic Church. Well, that is more of a perspective issue because the Romans physically nailed Jesus, but it was the Jews that used the state that controlled them to their advantage and turned him over. So there is like a metaphysical murder by the Jewish people of Jesus. That is that's why they have like the arguably, and this is why they've had all this persecution religiously from Christians through history, because they are the actual people handing him over to be murdered in place of, they exchange him for a revolutionary murderer, this pure God man. And so that is why the Jews have like the biggest stain on their hands. Arguably, ultimately the sin of the world, that's the narrative that kills Jesus. But yeah, directly his people slaughtered him through means of the state.
Yeah, because they just didn't think he was the Messiah, right? Like they didn't.
But I mean, he was a communist, so maybe he deserved it.
I'm not saying that. I ain't saying that.
No, I love the Bible's fun because you can spin it either way. That's why it's a good book. Just narratively, it's a good book, especially with all the meaning behind it for people, because you can spin it either way. You get people like Obama that can look at the Bible and be like, this justifies all my worldview. You can get a Nazi and grab the Bible and like, this justifies my worldview, and everyone in between that. So the joke about communist Jesus is because like a famous iteration, he fucking flogs the people and the money changers in the temple, and it's like, wow, he hates small business. What a communist! Like,
this is my father's dude. There's this guy, Kevin Pollak. He would do these Arnold impressions. He'd be like, if Arnold was playing Jesus, he'd be like, you can't gamble here. This is my father's house. I'm gonna flip tables. Like,
oh, that's good. That's good stuff right there. That's funny. I like that. But speaking of legal interpretation stuff, I saw an interesting just pop up in my feed. I'm like, ooh, interesting. Let's check it out. Because I haven't read the full thing. Let me share my screen. I get confused with all these tabs. Boomer moment. Nope. There we go.
Now I try to keep my tabs to a minimum.
The country sold her home over unpaid taxes and kept the profit. SCOTUS wasn't having it. Quote, the taxpayer must render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, but no more, wrote Chief Justice John Roberts. When local bureaucrats in Hennepin County, Minnesota, seized an elderly, a POC woman, by the way, home over a small tax debt, sold it, and kept the profit, they likely had no idea they would set in motion a series of events that would cripple the practice known as home equity theft across the country. Yet that's what happened. The Supreme Court on Thursday unanimously, that's even with that Mexican Obama put in there, ruled that the government violated the Constitution when it took possession of Geraldine Tyler's condo over an overdue property tax bill, auctioned the home, and pocketed the proceeds in excess
of what she actually. It's like the plot of Happy Gilmore. Anyways, go ahead.
Oh my God. Yes. Dude, I was just talking about that movie. Oh my God. Hold on. Let me text this to myself so I can share this. There's an amazing Happy Gilmore meme that you would never expect. Send it to Rookie. Half the shit I send to Rookie is just for me to share on here. So it'll be like, oh yeah, that's common. There we go. All right, let me pull this up. Let me stop this. Go here. Share.
You can't take her home for her. She's too old.
This is a Happy Gilmore meme. It says, I have brought peace, freedom, justice, and security to my new empire. Happy Gilmore accomplished that feat no more than an hour ago. Well, that's good for Happy Gil. Oh my God. the juxtaposition of like probably one of my favorite comedies, and of course Star Wars, which means so much to me.
And they put Mr. Larson back here.
The brilliance of anyone to think of this is like, oh my god, I want to be your friend just for this meme.
Dude, I really want one of those shirts he wears that says "Guns don't kill people."
I kill people. I was just
Yeah,
talking
kill
about
people.
that. Yes, because if you don't know, I got a pistol now, and I made that joke, and then he's like, "That's in a movie," and I'm like, I'm looking, and I'm like, "Ah, it's Happy Gilmore." All right, let's continue with the Geraldine Tyler case. All right, Tyler, who is now 94, purchased the Minneapolis condo in 99, but a series of events, including a neighborhood shooting, prompted her to relocate to a retirement community in 2010. At which point, it became difficult for her to pay both her new rent and the property taxes of her former home. She accrued a $2,300 tax bill, which turned into approximately $1,500 after the government added on $13,000 in penalties, interest, and fees. Local officials then sold the home for $40,000 and kept the remaining $25,000. Tyler spent years arguing that such a taking was unconstitutional, but despite the case appearing fairly black and white from the outset, she had no such luck in the lower courts. When her case went before the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Eighth Circuit, its ruling was unanimous in favor of the government, where state law recognizes no property interest in surplus proceeds from a tax foreclosure sale conducted after adequate notice to the owner. There's no unconstitutional taking, wrote that judge. The Supreme Court forcefully overturned that decision today. Taxpayer who loses her $40,000 house to the state to fulfill a $15,000 debt has made a far greater contribution to the public fisc than she owed, wrote the justice. And then he says the Caesar quote, at the heart of the case is the takings clause of the Fifth Amendment, which stipulates that private property shall not be taken for public use without just compensation. So if anyone not know, the Fifth is, the right to like not incriminate yourself in court for criminal law. So it's kind of cool that's tacked on to the Fifth Amendment. In explaining the justice's decision, Roberts traced the spirit of the law back to the Magna Carta, then to English law, and ultimately to the states, buttressed by several Supreme Court precedents, which, as Roberts wrote, have all recognized the principle that a taxpayer is entitled to the surplus in excess of the debt owed. Tyler is far from the only victim of this practice. Home equity theft is legal in Alabama, Arizona, Colorado. Let me just count these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 states, including the District of Columbia. Although today's ruling should hamstring those forfeiture schemes, home equity theft has been executed across those states, varies widely, although the life-wrecking consequences remain consistent. In Nebraska, for example, local governments sell tax debt to private investors behind a homeowner's back. The homeowner eventually receives a letter after 3 years have gone by, giving them 90 days to satisfy the full tax burden, which has continued accruing over those 3 years, along with the 14% interest and additional fees. Over those 3 years, the debtor does not receive notification from the government of his ballooning debt, as the private investor quietly continues satisfying it.
That's so dirty.
In 2013, for example, Kevin Fair of Scottsbluff, Nebraska, quit his job to become a full-time caretaker to his wife, Terry, who was diagnosed with debilitating multiple sclerosis. Without a steady source of income other than Social Security, he fell $588 behind on his property taxes. When he finally received notice from Continental Resources, the investor that bought his debt, he could not afford the total, which came to $5,000, so 10 times the amount. His house, however, is worth $60,000, and the Continental Resources told him it intended to take the whole shebang. In Nebraska, people are shocked about how the law actually operates. Chief of Legal Strategy at Legal Aid of Nebraska said, it's usually elderly people who own their homes outright, who don't have a mortgage, and there's usually some kind of intervening situation. In Fair's case, it was his wife's illness. She has since died. Prior to oral arguments before the Supreme Court, a cross-ideological coalition of organizations assembled in favor of Tyler. Few things are transpartisan. There we go. There's some alphabet victory for America right there.
Transpartisan.
I'm going to identify it. I'm transpartisan. But it took a 94-year-old woman and a nearly 10-year crusade to establish the obvious that the government should not be able to steal home equity from its own citizens. I feel like that probably applies to. I think it's the Fourth Amendment is like right to property, which is where you get right to privacy, and I want to say it's like unlawful search and seizure.
Yeah, unlawful search. Yeah, that's why they gotta have the warrant.
Yeah, I want to say the Fourth Amendment is like, yeah, you need warrants. You can't just like, oh, I'm the army. We're gonna sleep in your house, and it's like, no, you're not. Like,
Yeah.
interesting stuff though. Let me see the chat.
That's messed up, man. Dude, that's such dirty stuff. Like letting debt collect for 3 years on someone and not telling them, and then giving them 90 days after they build it up to take it as much as they can. That's messed up, man.
Yeah, good comment, Hideaway. No quarter. Yeah, no quarter. There we go. I'm always trying to, when I have time, like a long-term goal of mine, if everything can go right over next, I don't know, 5 years or whatever, I want to try to go back to school, get my degree, probably psychology, and then go for law. I want to do the old Better Call Saul path of geriatric student.
So that's what you'd like to defend people like that?
Oh, I don't care. I'll defend whoever. It's just the purity of the law. The law is interesting. I want to make money ultimately, but I believe in like the law is so interesting because it's age old. And again, this goes back to that monkey experiment I was talking about, the injustice that animals of any intelligence can perceive. Basically, all animals have rule of the jungle power. That is kind of a subconscious law we all live by as animals. And then you get to the fairness and whatnot, the kind of politics that happen in like apes and dogs, to some extent whales, intelligent creatures. Then you get to man, where we seem to have like crossed this mysterious veil of development mentally, and so we make these very abstract laws and stuff for society to flourish. And it's just very interesting. It is, I think the law is probably the oldest form of religion. There's no real God necessarily. It's just we have this implicit idea of fairness in various states of form. There's no legal protection from someone cheating on you, but there's an injustice there. And there's laws that work around that if you've been married. And I was thinking, I still don't have the full context, but we're talking about, like, do you think the government should be involved in marriage? And it's like, well, yeah, because they have an interest in the population to sustain the society. And so the government should be involved in marriage. The government was the church before, so we've always had the tribe even, another tribe wants to like make an alliance through a marriage. Well, you need the approval of the patriarchy, the father. Well, and
my biggest my main argument when it comes down to that is that government. It's not that government shouldn't have a place with marriage. I'm saying that most people who do get married strictly under the government instead of under God, where it feels like it's a much more stronger bond between the two people rather than just people signing paperwork. Because I had a buddy who was in the military, and he got married simply so he could have the benefits of the military. He didn't have to live in the barracks. He got a home, and all these other things. And, that's the difference that I'm making. And going back to the animal thing, disagreeing just as a Christian view, the Bible says we have dominion over the animals, and there's no laws in there, but it's just saying that humans have dominions, and I believe in creation, where I think you believe more in evolution. Is that true?
Oh yeah, totally.
Okay, so I'm more of a creation guy, I'm definitely a creation guy, where these laws were set out by God and not by man, but we should abide by what the Bible says. Again, not preaching to anybody. That's just what I simply believe.
Yeah. No, well, I think we are in some sort of metaphysical agreement in a very broad stroke, because it might just be life. Like there's just something metaphysical tied to life that is more abstract than rocks, and just base elements. That there's, like I said, the implicit kind of law of the jungle of power. You know, that's where you get in base sound like cattle. There's really no law within them besides like the two bulls will duel to sire the next generation. There's and it's like, oh well, you're a loser, so you go away. And there's kind of an implicit law in that action.
I don't think we as humans should like do things like, dude, like, I mean, these are just weird examples, but just like the stuff that really upsets me about, you know, like doing tests on animals and stuff like that. For instance, like the Elon Musk putting a bunch of brain chips into monkeys and they all died, or Dr. Fauci doing all these test experiments on beagles where he basically infested their heads with maggots, and I don't even know what the point of that was.
Cut their vocal cords.
Yeah, and did that too. So that's the kind of stuff I don't.
Oh my
like,
God,
you know,
the dogs are screaming! Please slice their throats so I don't hear it.
Give them another booster shot.
Maggot boosters.
Maggot boosters. Maggot boosters.
Wait, Tool did a cover of No Quarter? That's my favorite Zeppelin song.
Great song. Hey,
oh my God.
Papa, you might want to look up right now if you didn't hear. Check out Tool. Check out what's his name? Keenan Maynard, James Keenan. I can never get his name right. The guy singer from Tool. Check out his
James Keenan Maynard.
Yeah, check out his performance in Florida a couple nights ago. He was in trans to fight DeSantis. So he was wearing big tits with the nipples hanging out, and he had like this really bad makeup all over his face and stuff. Yeah, maybe you should check that out.
What? That sounds silly. So the reason I was like, what? Is you know, it says funny. I was thinking about going to watch the old Planet of the Apes movies. Weird shit, dude. Fucking weird. That's crazy. Because me and Rookie, we were talking about random movies, and somehow the argument came up about the Apes trilogy from Fox, the new one. And we were arguing about Dawn versus War. And I said, War for the Planet of the Apes blows Dawn out of the water 10 times. So much better. And I'm not saying Dawn isn't a good film, but it's, you know, and so with this like debate, we ended up rewatching them a couple weeks ago. And I guess War from Planet of the Apes was one of Rookie's first reviews. This is when he was dumb, young, new to YouTube Rookie. And he's just like, I watch movies, and didn't really take any meaning from a lot of it. And this is me crapping on him. Like, we have these conversations. And yeah, he totally on my camp now that we've watched all three. And it's like, God, you know, there's really not much. Like, if anything, the action gets in the way of good plot development of Caesar and the apes. But it's just, there's so much there. It's such a minimalistic, especially the third one, so minimal. And I love it. And that's why, looking back, I'm like, dude, this guy did this. He's going to do the Batman. That's going to be awesome. And it was. But yeah, we're watching the old Planet of the Apes, not as quickly. We watched the first three. And I really love number 2 because it's so nihilistic. It's just end, you know. And it's funny because it's kind of woke. People will try to, just like X-Men, people will read X-Men and try to say, oh, they'll try to graft it for alphabet causes of we're all oppressed, minority, whatever. And it's like, no, they're kind of missing it. Or they're really minimalizing the power of X-Men for just teen angst, you know, and not feeling belonging. That's the core of X-Men. But yeah, it's funny because it's kind of stupid, the second one, because, you know, they go underground, they find like the humans that are like,
I'm gonna, dude.
You ever seen number 2?
I've never seen any of them.
Dude, yeah, watch the original film, and then watch the new trilogy, and then go back and watch the rest of the old ones. I haven't seen
Charlton Heston, right?
Yeah. So good.
You know,
and
right,
what's funny
man?
is the book that's based on was written 5 years beforehand, so it wasn't even like a long-standing book, and they're like, make that a movie. And it's crazy. You watch the history. The guy that actually like optioned it, he was like a B-movie monster bullshit movie maker. He's the one that actually got it in the door to Fox, but then like they had new management take over, and he did like Dr. Dolittle. He thought that would be a huge hit, and it flopped horribly. And so this was like his last chance, put a lot behind it, and then it like blew up, and then it became like Apes Mania. So it's a cool story of like
Apes Mania.
revitalizing Fox. Yeah, and it's crazy. We know about Star Wars and the toys, but actually Apes was the progenitor of the toy craze of merchandise for a film. Maybe Star Trek. I don't know how much Star Trek shit was in the 60s for toys and stuff, collectors. It was just like Star Trek, and then it seemed like it went away until the 70s with the first film. But really cool film history there. I'm excited to watch number 4 and 5. I've watched behind the scenes stuff, so I know overarching kind of plots of 4 and 5 and how they paid homage in the new telling of Planet of the Apes. And I'm excited because Disney is doing not just a reboot, they're actually following up that trilogy. So given what they did with Prey, I do have hope. Because Apes more or less is kind of the new trilogy, at least it's kind of away from the civil rights stuff of the first film. In the first film, it's a civil rights film, the way they made it and stuff, but I use it as an example of the pendulum of power. Like, I don't think people see the full scope of Apes and the value of that film, because it's like humanity fucks itself so bad that they are now the animals, and apes are evolved and in power, and they've made their whole narrative of religion and stuff, and God made ape in his image and stuff. It's kind of funny. And I see it as, the pendulum of power, like, because the apes are supposed to be in the place of black people in the film, of like kind of putting the shoe on the other foot for the white man is the subtext of the film. But it's great concept. How serious they played it back in the 60s when you could just do silly shit. It's really crazy how good that film holds up, despite it's got cheap
I'll have to go back and check them
prosthetics.
out, man. I'd like to go back and watch old movies. And what you were kind of telling me, it sounded like you heard the machete order or whatever of Star Wars.
I've heard of it, but I'm a purist. I watched the original, then I watched the
basically
prequels.
it's for people who haven't seen Star Wars. This is like the best way to go, so like it doesn't like ruin the reveal of who Darth Vader is. Like, I can't remember the exact order, but basically you put the first the original ones and then the prequels. There's a certain way you arrange them. The sequels don't matter. Real quick here, Tool actually played in Columbus tonight at Sonic Temple, which I'm planning to go tomorrow.
Oh, it makes me mad. I'm too busy to do that.
I'm gonna try to go find me a $10 wristband out on the sidewalk tomorrow. Scalp at bad boy.
Hey, I feel like maybe I misread that, but yeah, Mark Wahlberg. We watched the Mark Wahlberg Planet of the Apes too, and there's silly stuff too, but they actually, I think it's an undervalued gem. The Mark Wahlberg Planet of the Apes with Tim Burton, good one. Yeah, watch all of them. Honestly, Hoff, watch all the Planet of the Apes movies. Go to your library. If you got a library card, go to the library, and you can probably find the box set of the original 5.
I don't need to do that. I can sit here and sail the seas.
Well, they're not on any streaming apps, or you'd have to rent them. So I'm just like, hey, go.
No,
I go to the library myself.
I sail the sea. Do you know what I'm talking about? Arr, pirate.
Ooh,
arr.
arr.
How do you think I saw
I
Guardians of the Galaxy? I didn't go to the theater. Allegedly.
Oh, yeah. Well,
allegedly.
I have the Cinemark app, and because I don't go very often because there's nothing good to see, I accrue with my paid monthly thing. I accrue a lot of tickets. So I probably got like 4 free tickets right now.
There is a library like just right over there. I don't know if they like right down that strip right across from where I live. Like they got a library over there. I should check them out sometime.
Yeah, I actually include the library in my how to read comics video, because I'm like, that's how I read shit. Sometimes if I can't find it online to read, then I'll go to the library and check out a volume and start reading. So yeah, I utilize my shit. Like, it's free. You pay your taxes, it goes to it. So
yeah,
utilize it, at least for the media. Yeah, no, it definitely is a civil rights film, but it's not. It sounds like a lot of baggage when I say it's a civil rights film. It's not. It's obvious, but it's not preachy, if that makes sense. So I'd be worried today if they tried to reinvent that in Apes, but the new Apes, that's not really a factor.
All the new apes have BLM signs.
No. Well, it's funny because like this was during the Vietnam era, and so of civil rights, came out. I think the year Martin Luther King died, and the second film they have I think General Ursus is a big character. So it's like they have this division of classes. They have the chimpanzees are kind of like the middle class, and then you got like the dumb brute gorillas that are almost all military, and then you have the orangutans that are like politicians and the hierarchy. They are mostly the religious hierarchy. And so you got not Cornelius, but is Dr. Zaius. Yeah, Dr. Zaius.
Dr. Zaius.
Interesting stuff. Yeah, there's a lot there, and I actually want to start reading the books. Like all the stuff spun off. They started doing new Planet of the Apes comics with the sub company. They got like 20th Century Studios comics now for like Predator, Alien, Planet of the Apes. Probably going to do Terminator through that if they do Terminator comics again. So it's a way to kind of offset from just Marvel directly, even though it is essentially. So I got the first couple of issues. I haven't read them yet, but looks cool, and I'm excited. Anything with like, especially Disney, when you start seeing comics pushed of characters that you haven't seen in a long time, or well, that's new. They're probably gonna try to put it in a movie. So
yeah.
Makes it a little pertinent, but unfortunately, they don't actually tie it to movies, so it gets annoying. But yeah. I was thinking about you today too. You were asking about the Big Bang.
Yeah.
You asked me about the Big Bang. I don't know a lot about it, but funny enough, the guy that discovered this theory, Catholic astronomer.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Huh.
So a lot of people, they hear Big Bang and it's associated with like evolution and stuff, and they think, oh, atheists. There's always conspiracies.
Yeah, that's very surprising.
Yeah. And yeah, it was a God-loving Catholic astronomer, and essentially the Big Bang. It's not like, aha, we know the answer. It's essentially he's doing math. All right, so all the celestial bodies that we can like see with telescopes, they're all expanding away from each other at like a constant rate. So every second we're wasting not trying to colonize further into space is more ground we're losing and more fuel we're having to expend to even try to get to another place after Mars or Saturn, whatever the case. Europa outside of Jupiter. And so essentially he just reversed the math of the expansion, and it's like, well, all this would be colliding at a central point. So that's what the Big Bang is it's like a reversal of the trajectory.
It's expansive. Yeah, the universe is expansive.
Yeah, so
I don't think that
that's
goes against the teachings of God or anything. I just don't know if that's how it was created. Yeah.
People, so how I interpret this observation in science, the Big Bang, is that more than likely all the chemistry that makes life came from this Big Bang, but what's before is like we don't know. And probably it's so far back and beyond our ability to research. We're never going to know what was before the Big Bang.
Our brains can't even handle that kind of thing. Like,
right, but
I don't even know if we could understand it. Yeah.
I think I think just actually finding a way to compartmentalize to even study it is beyond us. What is before the Big Bang?
Like, think about this, Angus. Like, say, like, you can think of the number 5, right? You can imagine 5 things. You can imagine, say, 5 apples. You can imagine 10 apples. When you get up to like 1 million
5
apples,
boobs.
or boobs, you can't really imagine that anymore. Your brain can't process that, like seeing 1 million apples in your head at once. Like, I can imagine 5 apples right now, 2 apples, 10 apples. Much farther than that, it's hard to do. But once you get to these higher numbers, it's almost impossible for our brains to comprehend things like that.
Yeah. Well, okay. So I wasn't aware that you
genius.
Understood that concept. But so how I take that information with like life, whatever, is I feel there's like a mental block with religious people with this concept with science in certain ways. With these like big millions of years, billions of years. And you're talking about like, oh, well, we believe from this book, whatever the book is, that here's a creation story and that's that. Then everything else just afterwards. And so people think, oh, someone that, is aware of the Big Bang and adheres to like this observation as fact that, well, that's just where life started. It's like, I don't know where life started or what's before it. I live life where it's like, well, I don't have an answer beyond that. And I'm content with it. I think that's what I mean by mental block. I think religious people especially in these realms of creation and Big Bang and stuff, is like, well, there's not an answer definitively before that is like a cap, and so it's like they can't accept that's just an unknown. And for me, it's like, well, that's an unknown, and I'm totally content where it's like that's the limit for the past that we can conceptualize.
Oh no, I get what you're saying there. Let's even take that concept from time to even space, where
Dude, space is weird because space is nothing. It's literally just
how far
nothing.
like you can't imagine how far it even goes. There's no, you don't just like get to a wall like in the Truman Show or something, do you? Like does it just go in a big circle? Is it just everything at once? It's just like time. Like time is a concept on its own, man. You know what I mean? Like some people say there's a time that's going backwards the same time we're going forward. It's kind of like a spiral, you know?
What? Dude, have you seen Tenet?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, you said that. It made me think of Tenet with the pincer move. What a crazy concept. Do you know where? It's total tangent, but do you know like what was the start of that idea for Nolan?
No, what was it?
There is this weird fucking thing from Rome. Let me go to the article and I'll find that piece in there. Tenet.
And you know that the title is the same backwards as it is forwards. Sure.
Yeah. So yeah, this plays into it. All right. So I just gotta peruse this really quick to find the. Aha. Okay. Here it is. Let me share it. All right, so themes and analysis. Palindromes. All right, so this first century Latin satyr square, which inspired the film's title, as well as two characters, Satyr and Arepo, the Goya forger. The location of the opening sequence. So Satyr, you got Tenet in here. There's this weird satyr square. It's palindromes. 5-letter words. Appears as names, locations.
Snakes all the way around. Yeah, I see.
Yeah, so I don't think diagonally, but yeah, you got
it goes
Sator, Rotos, Sator, Rotos, and you got Arepo, Tenet, Opera.
Oh, I didn't even see him going up and down. I was just looking left to right. Wow.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And then in the middle you got Rotos, Arepo, Tenet, Opera, and it's like it seems so inconsequential today, but it's like the fact that like people in the first century figured out this little word game. You know, it's crazy. This is again why I talk about return to Greece is Gad Sad. Do you know who that is? He's this psychologist. He's been one of these like famous kind of like in Peterson's realm, like getting canceled for normal scientific thought.
I've heard of him.
Yeah, look into Gad Sad. He did a book. I haven't read it, but I get the gist. It's about like essentially about mind viruses and stuff, about like wokeness and political ideas in general, but like he talks about how like the example of think of like punk chicks that today is just like every day some woke tard with nose ring, oddly colored hair, you know, all these warning signs of like that's not going to be a long-term relationship. All right. Mm-hmm. He's saying like these things we're just recreating for like social interaction. We're recreating things in nature of like stay the fuck away from it. Like the poison dart frog. Almost every beautiful animal is either like a male bird, and all these things are like attractants for the female and a way to distract from the nest when she has her children, you know, in the nest. Mm-hmm. The male bird's going to die first. Top of competition with each other. But also poison dart frogs, like all these weird fish in the sea, all the pretty ones.
The gay poison dart frogs.
They're poisonous, you know. And, yeah, I got where you're going with that. It's a gay bomb. Yeah, and he tied those two things together, like the typical SJW and these danger signs in nature.
I've heard this before, not from him, but I've heard it that deep. But a lot of people make the thing. Yeah, I've seen the memes where it's like,
the correlation, the connection. Yeah. He has, you know, to some regard, quantified it. and made a book about
I'm
this
I
kind
already
of
searched
stuff.
him. I'm gonna check him out. Yeah.
Yeah,
for
but
sure.
anyway, in his talk with Rogan, at some point, I don't know if they're talking about like doing hallucinogenics or wine or whatever, but Rogan was talking about like there's now this like formal study of like Greeks and their wine stuff because they found irrefutable evidence that they would lace their wine with hallucinogenics, with like shrooms and shit.
Nice.
And so there's like before this was like kind of crazy talk, but now they've actually found substantial evidence to like start this progression of discovery scientifically. And so that adds factors to how we view them. And Guy was talking about how like he has some friend that will like he's into like Greek thought and stuff, and how he reminisced that like, oh, it's funny that like we're finding these like psychological or scientific discoveries that like the Greeks said this like 3,000 years ago, and they didn't have any way to really quantify it scientifically, hard data, but they had these very insightful assumptions from what they could observe and guess. And it's funny because like 3,000 years later, we're just now validating these essentially guesses. And so that's the other thing is like how fucking smart these people were with no technology intensively for what we're concerned with. That's why I'm just like constantly flabbergasted. The more and more I learn, that's why it's like Athena.
They had a lot more
guide me.
free time back then too. Maybe. No, I'm kidding. They weren't always on their phones looking at
Well,
scrolling.
yeah, I've thought this for years, like, how like I really envy the ancients, not just the Greeks, but just through time until modern science. How like Da Vinci, he's this fucking famous painter and artist, just drawing, all of his sketches. The basis of modern anatomical study goes back to Da Vinci, and he almost got Galileo'd because people were thinking he was like a witch or something for like cutting up these bodies and drawing them and stuff.
Yeah, he's the one who did the picture of the body, like the guy with the
the forearms, 4 feet, all that. He was an inventor. He conceptualized the first known like tank, like vehicle. The cataphracts were essentially the first tanks in the world.
Aircraft too, right? Was it him that?
Yeah, I think he drew these prototypes of aircraft, attempts, and it's like the freedom that a scientist would have without the constraints of like, well, you don't have a degree in this specific subcategory of neurology, so we don't care what you say. We're so limited with our hyper knowledge that we can't really go in other fields, or it's another 150 years before someone ties two things together. That's why psychology is so interesting to me, because it's like it's kind of philosophical, just from like the onset of like inquiry into the mind. And then you think about like archaeology ties into it, comparative studies with creatures.
I think he'd be very
Pavlov's
good at
dogs.
I think he'd be very good at it, like the whole kind of psychiatry or psychologist kind of thing, man.
Yeah, well, like religion, like every facet of life can tie back into psychology. That's why it's a great, for me, interest, a catch-all kind of science, because it's kind of the Wild West. Even though we have a lot more constraints, especially like clinical psychology, as long as there's an ethics board that okays it, you can fucking experiment on anything regarding the mind and correlating it to anything in the world. And that's why it interests me so much.
Do you think it's very hard to make new discoveries in this day and age, though? Like when it comes.
Well,
to
yeah, that's kind of what I'm getting at. Is like, look at the freedom of the
Yeah.
ancients.
That's what you're saying. It takes a long time to make the connections between the two.
Yeah, and it's like what Da Vinci, the range Da Vinci was playing in today. A Da Vinci would be stuck either doing art, inventing like mechanics. He'd have to go to like MIT, or he'd have to go to like a doctor's school, or but he was free range. He had the liberty. And there's something again with Nietzsche that he was talking about where it's like he really loathes democracy. And we talk about this not even related to that, where it's like, yeah, is democracy the best idea? I don't know, because it really suits the lowest common denominator. Like, as noble as the idea of like spreading spreading the riches, the opportunity, I guess, of riches evenly among the people with opportunity. It's like through history, the best people come from a very steep pyramid of like most people are on the bottom of the pyramid, and then there's a select few that have opportunity and they seize it in great strides. Alexander, for instance, just with conquest alone, and from that culture spreading through that empire, the Ptolemaic Egypt until Rome was because of Alexander's conquest. I don't know, it's just things like this just
The
make me question
population of
everything.
the planet was very much smaller back then too, you know. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if that has anything to do with like things
Social
not being-
media
yeah,
is
like
and 24-hour news. These kind of breakthroughs are, I think, it's beyond our monkey brains. You know, we have, regardless if you think we're animals or not, there is a science of just the physical that like we work on animal pathology. You can like throw this item in the mix of our lives, and there's a pathology of like the animal self, and that's what really interests me. Is like that's about the Greeks in there. They were subject to nature despite their advances, and it's like they're very aware of like the heights of man is like fully embracing the animal side of us and the abstract human heights. You know, that's like the bindu of what I'm gathering, and that's what I'm seeking is like, what are the realities of our animal programming within our genetics and our instincts, and what are the heights we can go beyond that, while not foregoing the animal reality. You know, I see that with like, I get really irritated with the left because they love science until, you know, it's like, all right, yeah, evolution, we're a primate, we're part of that pathology of the family tree, and all the other apes, chimps, gorillas, orangutans, very different social orders, but they're all patriarchal.
mm-hmm.
And so that would lend itself to be like, oh, well, the patriarchy of humanity is scientifically implicit in our
Wow.
species. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
try
And it's like,
telling
no,
that shit.
we gotta egalitarianism, feminism. And it's like, no, it's in our nature
I
as
don't wanna hear
apes
that.
to
They
be
don't wanna hear that.
patriarchal. You
Yeah.
know, that's what's funny to me. It's like, and you see it. The more you research, the more it's like, oh, well, like that's what we should be, you know, or like mate guarding, where it's like you're just an insecure man. It's like, no, this is implicit in the males of any kind of social species. Mate guard your harem, or even if it's just one lady, you know. I don't know. I'd have to look into penguins how that works because they mate for life. So I don't know what the mating like attraction is of fighting, but
Yeah, I don't either.
this is
I mean,
the
just
fucking
slap each
tangents
other
my
with
brain
flippers.
goes into.
Like, just have a flipper fight. Just
Yeah, so
bitch
that's the
slapping
thing.
each
It's
other.
like I am technically never bored. Like I really loathe sleep. I loathe time because I only have so much of it, and I have to devote a third of it to sleeping, and I can't indulge my inquiries like
Yeah,
I
that
want.
sucks, man. I saw this video recently. This guy, I can't remember what country he's in, some foreign country, I think Asia or somewhere, and this famous YouTuber, I can't remember his name, but he traveled out there to meet this guy, and this guy allegedly hasn't slept in like 60 years since the Vietnam War.
Huh.
Like, he'll sleep for maybe like an hour or two a month, and that's it. And the guy like literally follows him around for days, and he's just up all night just making rice wine, getting drunk, and he lives on rice wine. It's crazy.
Oh man, that sounds awful.
Yeah, well, the thing is, they can't figure out what it is, but it's clear that the guy has like some kind of PTSD from the Vietnam War.
Honestly, his brain, even if he's like awake and maybe he's like doing a task, his brain's probably shutting off.
Yeah, that's what
You
I was
know,
thinking, yeah.
at least the high function, like he's probably in some mental sleep state, and you know maybe there's some sort of cognition.
Well, it shows him try to lay down. The guy says he wants to sleep. He says he hates it. He says, "I want to sleep." Like,
oh, dude, there's another meme. Well, it's not even a meme; it's just a picture, but it is a meme in itself. The existence of it is hilarious. Let me find it. This is like divine providence. Me having this meme ready for this stream.
Yeah, the chat was going on about boobs there for a while.
Yeah, I do love boobs. Be the male or trans. Equal opportunity. So this woman is asleep, and in her hand is a book that says "How to Sleep Well."
It worked.
Life finds a way. Like, and the fact that someone like was aware and caught that is hilarious. Yeah. Oh man! But anything else you want to talk about before we go? Because I'm gonna go to bed, but it's like, all right, we've gone about 2.5 hours. We can wrap this up. I'm gonna go play some Rome Total War.
Nothing, man. I think this was a very good conversation, and I think me and you should more often do shows together because I love these conversations, man. I really have a fun time talking to you about these things. So
yeah, no, I love having a springboard where it's like, oh, here's a funny little thing I want to tell you about. Speaking of this, so February, I blew my engine in my Kia, the car you saw.
Yeah, you're lucky it didn't get stolen. But
so, like, I'm driving to work. I stopped at the gas station, got me a sandwich and some drinks for work. Bada boom, taking off, and then there's this car going like, I don't know, 50 or less. I'm like, fuck you. Zip past him, hit like 80 past him, and I'm starting to like slow down, and then like I lose my engine. Like I get a light, and then my car just, I can't press the pedal, won't accelerate. I'm like, fuck, and I'm going like 30, trying to just drift on to find a somewhere to pull over.
Yeah,
drifting, and I'm thinking like, God, these people must think I'm an asshole. Just like, oh, you like it, you know? And it's totally not it. And I'm like, oh man, I feel such a dick. And I pull in this driveway, and there's like a church, and there's like a gas company, and this like fork. And I pull in the church thinking it's fucking Tuesday, no one's gonna be here. And so I go up to the gas company, like, hey, can you help me restart my car? Maybe my battery died, maybe. It's my guess. So we try that, and nothing takes off. And I'm not even getting like any kind of feedback in the car of like, oh, this is working or you're close. It's just, this is fucking dead. I'm like, how's this gonna work? I need to go to work. I need money. I do not need this. So I'm freaking out. Don't know if I can, how much it's gonna cost to fix. What is it? I gotta get towed. Will my insurance tow it somewhere? How am I gonna get to work? Because I live like 30 miles away from work. No one's close to take me.
Oh, I guess a bad situation all around.
Yeah, and also I keep checking just in case if anyone's pulling into the church driveway for whatever reason that I'm not getting my car towed. So I have to keep checking every like 10, 20 minutes, peeking out. And when I do, eventually someone is trying to pull around my car. And so I go over there and like, hey, just like, so don't tow my car. I have a tow coming. And they're like, oh, well, like if you want to wait in here, we're having like a men's group. And so yeah, they helped me hang out till the thing came. So I ended up going to this like non-denominational church, which I was, there's a pathology with my mom. We were Jehovah's Witness when I was a kid, and then she fell away. And then I started going to this Baptist church. They had like a boys like summer thing, like Boy Scout kind of shit. And then she got married, and we went to the local church, and we started started escalating up the chain of Christian history. Eventually, we were like Pentecostal non-denominational for years. And then she went to the altar. She had a crucifix, which was like her first anniversary gift. And the preacher, the revival guy's like, don't you know Jesus already died? And that was like a wake-up call of like, this is wacky. And so we left, and eventually we went to Episcopal Church, the Anglican. We're doing that for a couple of years, and then we left because they had an ordained priest come out as gay, and then they ranked him up to bishop. So a lot of people left, went, lower denominations or Catholic, which is about the only high you can go, or Orthodox, or they just quit going to church. So we ended up just going Catholic. And So it's funny looking back at the history, even though I wasn't necessarily full mentally capable invested in church, I can look back and understand what I was going to. And it's funny because like non-denominational is like so bare. They have a bare cross and like nothing in the church. Then you go Catholic and you got all this like 14 stations of the cross. You got different stained glass depending on your church. You got your patron saint of
Very
your church.
ornate. Yeah.
You got your crucifix. You got the altar. You have the tabernacle with the hosts of the already blessed bread from previous times. And so yeah, I go to this church. So I felt like obligated to at least go to this church once. And the reason I bring this whole story up in this history is because I find more value, even though I'm atheist, so I don't care. I go to this church once in a while because it keeps me engaged because it's not full agreement. Like when I talk about Christendom, if I know your specific sect or whatever, then I can like adjust off of what I know that you believe in and argue within that. But it's like when I talk Christianity, I talk Catholic because there's 2,000 years of history that is documented of like this was the church, and then 1500 it became a denomination. But yeah, like if I went to Catholic church, I went with my friend once to a Catholic church. He's Catholic, and it was so strange because like it's familiar, but it's like this is just an amalgamation of this is really just like a Roman basilica where they put a Jewish god in it. And they remove the lower gods and put saints, Mary and the other saints in the shrines outside of the main shrine of the main god, Just funny getting this new perspective. But then I go to this bare church where it's like nothing but like bare cross. And I have my perspective about that where it's like, you need a crucifix if you're in a church because the whole point of the Bible and the story is like the sacrifice of God for the people. This bare cross shit. To me, in my perspective, it reveals an emptiness of faith that like, oh yeah, God, he jumped off eventually, and he Easter and he resurrects and Pentecost goes up to heaven. And, it's a nice thought, but no, the real meat of the story is the sacrifice. And that's the value I find in the liturgical church with the crucifix. But, no, I find it because they were reading like, I think Philippians and stuff. And just like reading this, I'm just like, wow. I wouldn't, and hearing the guys, preaching and stuff off of it, and it was just interesting because like I'm disagreeing within the confines of the religion in the book, but I'm engaged, and I get more. It's just like I'm a Philly fan, but my best friends I've ever had in the NFL as fandom has been Cowboys fans because we're enemies. And so like I'm attuned to you. If it's just Philly, like we're friends, we all like the same shit.
Yeah,
fucking
exactly,
boring.
dude.
It gets stale, and so that's what's so fun with someone like you and me. We're a lot of differences, a lot of agreements, and so it's like having fun piecing out these disagreements.
Absolutely,
shades.
man. I'm learning a lot from you, man. I think people really enjoyed this one, according to the chat there. I know you.
Totally, Papa. I joked with Ricky. I'm like, oh man, of course my car breaks down in front of a church, so this is a sign. No, totally don't believe that. It's just coincidence.
I will disagree, and I say I believe that.
Well, because I go to it and I'm like, yep, totally don't agree with this shit. No, not like, oh, it's just all silly. That's the thing, me like being ex-Christian, I still find a lot of value. I find more value even in these stories, not being like believing like this is truth. There's just a lot of good lessons.
That's Old where Testament, I'm not a very good Christian.
Super red bill.
That's where I'm not a very good Christian sometimes, is because I'm still kind of in that internal battle with, which I know this could be blasphemous to some people. I'm in that internal battle if some stories in it are morals and kind of like fables in order to teach us lessons on how to live our lives as humans, or if these things were actual historical things that actually happened. I believe Jesus lived, first and foremost, died on the cross for the sins, and I believe that, but there's some other stuff in there that just like, I remember which I hate Bill Nye, but I just remember when Bill Nye had that whole debate with that Ken Ham guy like 10 years ago or so. And
Ken Ham. Oh my god!
And it was just it was just like it was an ugly debate either way. But I did agree with one thing, is like I don't know how science can change from biblical times to now. Do you know what I mean? Like, how could things happen back then? You could say it's miracles by God and you, but I don't know. That's still something I'm struggling with as a Christian. I'm not the best Christian in the world, and I'm still learning. Every day's a big process for me, and I'm reading more of my Bible, and I'm trying to figure things out. I'm having conversations with people like you about things, and with my buddy Pete, who is a Catholic, who's actually live right now. You know it, and I think Papa Cotton are probably over in that chat right now. But
Well, I'll give you a couple things on what you're saying. With like, especially in the Old Testament, it's like, oh, Noah lived to like 800 years, and there's all these people in the Bible. It's like they just lived a fuck ton of time. I don't know how much to take truth in that. Not as like, oh, it's a fable, so it's all fake. But if like, because there's a genealogy that you trace back to Adam, so like that seems very pertinent and real, regardless of like what Genesis is supposed to be. But regardless of like how old they were, and even if you adjust, it's still inhuman, however old they were. But time was kept differently back then. So like Rome until Julius Caesar.
True. Okay. Good point. Good point.
The September might land in like March with the way the calendar worked until he added July, and I don't know if August was added with him or with his nephew Octavian, Augustus Caesar. But yeah, so like that was a very institutionalized system of timekeeping, and it was fucked up and stuff. And so it took a long time to get formal time how we keep it today. So there is that factor of reading where it's like, oh, they say they're 800 or whatever years, but like how were they aging people with their time records back then? There's that factor. But to counter that scientifically is when cells divide, they lose the ends of DNA are called telomeres. All right. So every time you split and make new cells, you lose like a little bit off the end. And so there is like, no matter how healthy you are, never have injuries, you will die eventually. Every creature, they're going to die at some point because of the telomere. The cellular replication only goes so far before it just expires, and now like a replicating strand will just like break apart because there's nothing to like hold it at the end. Like think of the ends of a zipper, but you're chipping off slowly over time. So, but Neil deGrasse Tyson, a lot of people try to claim him as an atheist. I don't know. He's just, his focus, his life is devoted to astronomy and stuff. So I just don't think he really cares as far as devoting himself to like religious adherence. But he has an interesting perspective. I'm trying to think exactly what came to mind with him. Oh man, I'm totally lost. There's something with deGrasse Tyson. I've watched some of his not debates, but like conversations about, I guess, kind of scientific or atheistic thought and stuff with science. But oh yeah, he talks about the Bible, and he's like, I don't really like to get into that, arguing about the science of the Bible, because the Bible is not a scientific book. That's not its purpose. There might be things that scientists can pick out and debate and analyze, but it's not a scientific book, so you shouldn't, that's not the focus you should be arguing. It's a metaphysical book and a historical book, depending what part you're reading. So the only thing with science that really matters, like the creation story, when like the theory of evolution kind of reveals itself in science with all the things we're putting together, and fossil records and stuff, and it's like, creation story, just boom, and everything that ever existed, species that's here, doesn't really add up, especially if you look at the dinosaurs, the mammoths, all that stuff. They're gone. We got new things that seem to be descendants. So there's that factor. And then like the people, like some things they'll proclaim, like the firmament was an idea of like essentially the earth was a dome. And so there's like an ocean outside the dome was space. And we know now we got satellites over there. It's not water. It's just nothing. And then
You're
celestial
talking to a
bodies.
conspiracy theorist. I will disagree with that.
But yeah, well, regardless,
Satellites are carried by balloons. And I'm going off a conspiracy theory. Right
no,
there,
that's funny.
No evidence on that, but it's just
I don't know how to counter it because I don't know enough about the conspiracy to even argue about it. But yeah, it's just there's all these things where it's like the Bible's not a scientific book. Bishop Barron, I'll try to find a specific video, but he's interesting because he's a bishop of Catholicism. I think at least before he was in like Missouri at a basilica, and he does movie reviews, and he's not being safe. And that's the thing people don't realize about Catholicism, because like at first I'm watching these reviews, like he reviewed Shape of Water, which is somewhat a sexual story, and you're thinking, what, a priest that's devoted to God and he's celibate watching smut? But it's like when you realize like the Catholic Church is so responsible for preservation of things that lower like Puritans would have smashed, like the Muslims, they would have eradicated so many works of art. Catholic Church, whatever you think of them, if you think they're like Satanist conspiracy, whatever, they've preserved so much history and philosophy of pagans.
This is true, man. I respect Catholics. I respect Catholics a lot.
There's a lot of and so it's interesting because you watch enough of Bishop Barron. He talks about Friedrich Nietzsche, who's essentially a famous atheistic philosopher, and so he's got a full spectrum of knowledge. That's why I really hit my hat to Catholicism, even though I don't believe in the faith. Is that to be a practitioner of the faith, a priest, a bishop, you have to know a couple of languages. You have to have like essentially a doctorate in philosophy. So you're not just like in a bubble when you're Catholic. You're exposed to counter Catholic ideals versus like a Protestant preacher. They're in a bubble. Even when they're aware of things, it's like they're already got this like bubble mindset. And that's why I have a respect for Catholicism especially. Outside of it now. And that's why I hate Pope Francis, because there's an institution that for whatever ills it has led so much growth for humanity and prosperity, and you have this guy on the inside decaying it from within.
Wow, that's a lot, man. That's a lot.
Looking him up right now so you can send you the link. Bishop Barron. Shape of... You ever seen Shape of Water?
Yeah, I saw it when it first came out. I don't really remember it that much. I just remember that scene where the whole room fills up with the bathtub and they bang or something. I don't remember.
Yeah. Love it.
I was like, why is the water not seeping out the door? I don't know.
What was the comment of Cotton?
Oh, there's two of them right here. I wanted to say Neil deGrasse Tyson is a windbag who likes to hear himself speak. I'm not a big fan of the guy. He said a few things, but I just wanted to do my quick Neil deGrasse Tyson. Billions and billions of stars. That's my.
I love deGrasse Tyson, especially when I learned that he's actually a student of Sagan. It just gave me more like.
I do. I own the Cosmos, Carl Sagan's Cosmos, with a foreword written by Neil deGrasse Tyson, actually. I wanted to comment on this one too, where Papa says anyone who needs ancient fairy tale book to tell them right from wrong has bigger problems than religion. I don't disagree with that, but I will say that sometimes ancient fairy tale books can give you a little bit of direction and hope and inspiration.
Yes.
I'm not saying you have to believe in religion to be a good person or have morals, but I mean, for some people, it goes a long way in strengthening in their lives and things. So, I mean, I don't disagree with that, but sometimes it helps, Sometimes it helps.
Yeah. Oh, the reason I mentioned Barron on top of like his intellect coming into film criticism, is that he was reviewing Bill Maher's Religulous, which is I think should be required viewing for Philosophy 101 or at least Religion 101.
I've seen that many years ago, but I did see that.
Love it because he hits on a lot of like kind of opening salvo questions of. I was in a intro to religion for Western religion, so Judeo-Christian concepts, and I really think that movie would have like really helped the conversation.
From what I remember, he didn't touch the Jews in that movie though. He was like, nah.
No, he did. Yeah, Bill Maher's Jew.
Okay,
he went to Israel, and there's some guy, because the Jews, I don't know where it is in the Old Testament or the Talmud, whatever, that they get this, but they can't like fuck with electricity on the Sabbath every week, and so there'll be rooms that they leave the light on because they can't turn it off, or if they turn it off, they have to leave it off. Stupid shit like that, where it's like, well, does God care if you're using electricity? It just seems so retarded to me. Like when you look at like the concept of God in the Bible, it's like I don't think he fucking cares about electricity. in your usage of it.
I
Jesus
don't even-
went out and he's picking grain on Sabbath. And they're like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "I gotta eat." Like, fuck you. Yeah, because of like wacky rules in the Jews, they won't use electricity and stuff. So like this guy's trying to make like an air powered wheelchair to work around the rules that they have to live by, and he's like, this is stupid. So yeah, he does hit at the Jews a bit, but it's mostly because he's American. It's mostly Christianity, Christian concepts. Maybe he talks about terrorism too with Islam. I don't remember, but it's a good like opening questions, concepts of stuff. I think he really hits nail on the head with some stuff from my view. And Barron talks about like, well, this is a redundant way to interpret the Bible, because he's talking about how the Bible is a library of books and there's different genres in the Bible. And so I kind of disagree, because at least in certain, like with Genesis, because yeah, it's like, well, the first man and woman, like this whole story of the fall of man, you can argue it's not meant to be taken literally, that there was just Adam and Eve. But then you have, again, the genealogy, which is like a trace. So I'm like, I don't know about that. Don't know if it's mythical. You wrote about angels fucking women and having the Nephilim or whatever, or the Nephilim fuck women had giants or whatever the case. That could just be, them vilifying their
the
enemy.
aliens came down and banged the women and they had giant babies. Yeah, the Nephilim.
But yeah, no, it's just, yeah. So Barron's I sent you in your Twitter his link. So interesting. I haven't watched it in a while. I saw some video of him giving at a Protestant college a graduation speech, and he's talking about like, well, why have a Catholic priest at a Protestant school? And he's like, well, besides our differences, we should be talking about our commonalities and working together. So interesting guy.
I agree, man. I agree. We should be working together on things, man. Learning from each other, man. I think that's what I appreciate everything you're sending me. I want to check these things out. I'm always open-minded to new things. I have my strict beliefs, but I'm always open to hear things and learn new things and grow. And there's a lot more to it. Like you never want to be that person that just because you believe one thing that you just want to like wall yourself off from because I think that's probably one of the worst ways to live life. But that's just my opinion. That's why I'm a conspiracy theorist.
Well, yeah, again, that's why I was interested in Satanism, because the allegory of Satan, it matches with Prometheus to me. That's why, that's another reason why I'm like poking holes in Christianity. It's like, Satan is just Prometheus. You've just inverted the archetype of the inquisitive, of the defier. Prometheus is like a hero for mankind, and then Satan kind of does the same thing, but he's the villain. And so that comes into like I was saying with GP about, well, he just amalgamated all these other religions.
yeah. GP, I love GP. He can get out there sometimes. He's an interesting man.
No, I like that. I really like that conversation with him. But yeah, anything you want to say before we go?
Thank you so much for having me on, man. I really do appreciate it. I had a great time with this conversation. Anytime that you want to have a show, we'll try to make it happen, man, because I enjoy them. I think people who watch enjoy them, and I know people really like the one we had on mine, so it looks like people like the one we had on yours, and yeah, I'm a little bit more sober tonight than the last one, but
hell yeah.
But so maybe I could make a little bit more sense tonight than the other night. But yeah, thanks to everyone in the chat who was watching. Papa Cotton OG, Hideaway in the Woods. Thanks for being here, just to kind of out of the blue. That's always kind of fun to see that happen.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate all y'all coming on, and look forward to seeing you next week. Again, Ricky will probably only be here for an hour. We're gonna have Itepukunian, the place to be reviews, longtime buddy, rekindling our friendship via stream. So be there next Thursday. Maybe I'll have a Tuesday stream. It's hard for me trying to reach out and find people for comic streams, so that's why they're kind of hit and miss on Tuesdays. But always look out for Tuesdays. Hideaway, you said you're Jewish, if not
Tuesday's
mistaken.
Hoff Day.
Yeah. Go watch Hoff as well.
Go watch it.
But yeah, when I do have Tuesday streams, my co-host is Chris Fisk with a content creator, and he's Jewish, so we have a little fun with that from time to time. Good commentator, good personality, and he's on, I think, with ETEP on Mondays and with Vinny Art, so he gets around too. Good guy. And go sub to Hoffcast. I'm going to add his link to the description. Let
thanks,
me
man.
add it
Appreciate
in the
that.
chat right now before we go. Hoffcast.
Mucho
Hoff-ass.
apreciado.
Wait, what? Oh, you know what? I might have been subbed on my other channel. Fuck. No wonder I wasn't seeing it. I'm like, I thought I was subbed to you, but that was
Yeah,
my old channel that I was subbed
There we
on.
go.
Let me. Here we go. Hideaway. Go sub. And I'll add it to the description as well. Take care, everybody. See you next week.